Hi, everybody. Welcome to Coach Menachem on this beautiful Sunday night. We just moved the clock, got an extra hour. I'm sure everybody's refreshed. Tonight is Shir 248. We're in our sixth year, and Baruch Hashem, the program is moving, and we have a tremendous amount of topics coming up. Tonight is one of them, especially. And as we say, it's a place, a Sichos Chaverim, place to talk about a lot of important stuff. So tonight, Hashem will be a very important topic, and hopefully, we'll be able to help a lot of people. If anybody wants to join our WhatsApp chat, you can please WhatsApp me at 732-314-1710. That's 314-1710. I'll send you the link to the group chat. I will also post it soon in the chats over here. You could also go to Menachem Bernfeld's website, which is menachembernfeld.com, and sign up for the weekly flyers and the emails where he posts all the speakers and the replays of everything. All the people that are watching this on YouTube, the replay, you can click on the like button. So we get a lot of likes, and click on the subscribe button. So every week when Menachem posts a shir, you could get notified. Usually we post it right after the shir. We download it and put it straight up, so you get a notification right away. And I'd like to thank all the advertising sponsors, Lakewood School here in Lakewood, for promoting us. Ellie Narrow from Five Town Central, and Chayla Kaufman from JCN, the Jewish Contact Network, for always promoting us. Coach Menachem Show is sponsored by OKClarity.com. OKClarity.com is the largest place for mental health and wellness for the global Jewish world. It's the place where any Jew could find an amazing therapist, psychiatrist, provider, nutritionist, and coach. Yes, you'll even find Coach Menachem there. OKClarity has an amazing WhatsApp status with over 10,000 followers, and Menachem will send out the email with the clicks. You can join it, and it's a great community to be part of. And please join. Again, if anybody's here the first time, every Sunday night at 9 p.m. on the Zoom ID, we have different shiurim, different topics, different programs, speakers, therapists. I think we had it all over here. We keep on going, and next week, November 9th, we're going to have Lakewood therapist, Avram Leffler, pretty well known in Lakewood over here. Hopefully, it'll be amazing. The topic was not confirmed yet, but he will be joining us next week. And tonight is Shir 248, so we're going to turn it over to usually Arnoich Fried, but he's not around tonight. So Menachem is going to take it over, and he's going to also open it up tonight. Why are we here tonight? Menachem, all yours.
I'll try to do my best to give our Noach's message. The Gematria for 248 is Kol B'nayich Limudei Hashem. The message is we're all children of Hashem, no matter how far anybody is. We all want to be connected. We want to heal, become closer. And tonight's Gematria 248 is Kol B'nayich Limudei Hashem. So I want to thank our Noach for the Gematria, and we miss him. Mitzvah Hashem will be back. Okay, tonight's topic. So first, welcome everyone. Welcome to another Let's Get Real with Coach Menachem. Baruch Hashem, with a lot of Siyata D'Shmaya, number 248. And like we heard, we had many topics, and tonight's topic is not an easy one. It's been sitting around and not easy. How? Who? Whatever you're going to say, you can't please everyone. It's going to be hard, but the time has come, and here we are. So talking about alienation, talking about the pain, and I would say even from the past few days, the emails that came in, the stories, there's so much pain out there. And sometimes it's hard to believe. You read it, it's just hard to believe. And, they say, if you would only know the story. And usually I don't know the story. I'm just reading an email. But when you hear the stories, there's always two sides. And you never know where to put yourself. So many stories, crazy stories. And many times there's no explanation. People feel it's just, like you're on the line and then one day it's just dead. Disconnected, and you try email, phone, nothing. They can't even understand what. Like, let's talk, let's figure this out. Everybody knows the words open communication, but there's nobody there. How painful that can be. So the word abuse and trauma, what we know, has been thrown around the past while a lot, and it's been abused. Not always clear what does it mean. So it's very hard to get a clear picture. Now, are there situations where there are real abuse? Yes, there are. Is it possible that maybe the only way through disconnected could be? I don't know. We'll ask the professionals. But from all these stories and so many stories, how many times all it needs is just to understand, to sit down and see what it is. That communication to understand both sides, but instead it just becomes quiet and there's no one there. So again, if I'm not in the situation, I don't understand. You are, and if you're in pain, it's hard to know what you're feeling. So, and again, there are two sides, many sides, and everybody feels they have the side, that they have to do what they need to do, and there's no one to talk to. So the question is, what's the solution? So hopefully, Mitzvah tonight we're going to start the conversation. But like I always say, or many times, you're talking about a conversation that might be hard to listen to, because if there are parents, there are children, grandchildren, grandparents, and you might be hard to listen to what they're saying because they don't understand your story. But if we can create this space, so that we can listen and try to get all the sides, and hopefully come with some type of solution, something that can make it easier, that we can bring back, connect. It doesn't have to be overnight, but some idea. And in Hashem, we should have a lot of siyata deshmaya, and we should be able to say and listen to what we need to, so that it should Hashem connect to who we need to, and ultimately us to our Creator, our Father, and Hashem, our Father in heaven. Shkoyach.
Beautiful. Okay, let's get into it. We have tonight with us Tuvia Blau and Hindy Herman. They're going to be presenting this sugya of parents and children, disconnection, alienation, whatever words you want to use. They became the speaking source. I'm going to read. Hindy will go first with the opening, followed by Tuvia. And the topic tonight is called Healing the Divide Between Parents and Children. Rebuilding trust after pain, distance, and silence. Opening a heartfelt conversation for parents and adult children to understand, heal, and reconnect together. And this is a very big topic, a lot of different parts of the topic, and they'll explain it when we get into it. And Menachem, everybody should listen to it. And whether now, or in 10 years from now, or 50 years from now, when you listen to this, it should be the first step towards everybody healing. And I'll read Hindy Herman's bio. Hindy Herman is a family relationship and dating coach with deep commitment to helping families heal and reconnect. A married mother of 7, she draws from her own life experiences and professional training to guide others in building healthier, more meaningful connections. With over 4 years of experience in family estrangement and relationship coaching, Hindy leads with compassion, empathy, and deep personal insight. Learning under Tuvia Blau's coaching program, a certified life coach, having completed the ICF accredited coaching certification through Torah Psychology under Daniel Schoenbuch, who's been on our share, I think, twice. She brings both structure and depth to work. She works with both parents and adult children to build emotional resilience, clarify their needs, and approach challenges with strength and perspective. Hindy is dedicated to helping families rebuild trust, deepen understanding, and form lasting relationships. Her coaching Her coaching empowers individuals to set boundaries, find confidence in their voice, and make meaningful steps towards healing with warmth, grace, and unwavering belief in the power of connection. Mrs. Herman, the floor is yours. Open it up.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Thank you, Coach Menachem. You said that very well and beautifully. I appreciate you having us here tonight to talk about this very important topic. I'm going to start off by just giving some definitions to the words we're using here tonight. There is many terms to define what we're going through, this family dynamic, estrangement, alienation. They have distinctly different meanings, but we use them interchangeably. I'm going to define for you how they are termed in the classic sense. Estrangement refers to the breakdown of the connection between family members. Usually we're talking about parents to children, but it can also include siblings. Grandchildren very often get involved. And it doesn't always necessarily mean a complete breakdown. Estrangement can sometimes mean a strained relationship. Sometimes we feel like we might be walking on eggshells with somebody. Sometimes a family member might go in and out. They're talking to us, they're not talking to us. We're not feeling safe and comfortable with them. That is also a form of a strained relationship or estrangement. Sometimes a family member who we are feeling estranged from could be living in our own house. It's not necessarily a physical distance. It could be just an emotional distance as well. And it can encapsulate so many, it's a broad term, the word estrangement. The word parental alienation is something that we often use to talk about young children. Sometimes we call parental alienation syndrome, or PAS, and that occurs usually from a divorce or separation. It happens when one parent inadvertently, whether intentionally or not intentionally, starts to put thoughts and ideas into the child's head, which will distance him from his other parent. And sometimes he even might be pressuring them, some emotional pressure, to distance himself from his mother or father, whichever parent might be being alienated here. And that manipulation actually causes the child to believe it, and it becomes that child's reality. And this is where they're holding, and it's very hard for them to remember a time when things were good or good memories. His whole reality is taken over by this sense of disconnect, of manipulation from one parent. There's also an alienation that we call a third-party parental alienation or third-party alienation, and that you see more when people are going into adolescence, teenage years, adulthood, and that might involve someone, a friend, a mentor, sometimes even a spouse, a therapist, who might inadvertently also be someone who is causing a disconnect between a person and his parents. The parent very often, I'm finding when it comes to estrangement and talking to clients and to people who reach out to me, very often a parent will say that there is a third-party alienator. They'll point to a therapist, they'll point to a married spouse who came into the family and just somehow didn't hit it off with them, or came from a different type of culture, maybe more European, maybe more American, didn't seem to understand each other. They might say the spouse comes from a very unhealthy home. Sometimes they'll point it to a rabbi, again, like I said, a therapist. And very often when I talk to those adult children, they don't see that there's any alienator at all. They sometimes, if I'll bring up that person, they would say, no, this is somebody who actually is very supportive of me and somebody I feel very safe with. So I'd like to point out that, like Coach Menachem said, there's multiple truths here, and one parent can very, very realistically see as an alienator and could very rightly be so, is not necessarily what that adult child might be seeing. These are very complicated situations, and each term really has its own meaning. But that's really pretty much all the different terms that you're going to hear when it comes to estrangement, this kind of family dynamic.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Herman. Beautiful opening. So really clarified the different types there are. Because a lot of people are emailing me, people are coming, with the divorce part, people are just dealing with the adult kids. Okay, let's go to Tuvia. Coach Tuvia Blau is a leading voice in the field of parental alienation and family estrangement, with particular focus on unique challenges faced within the Frum and Orthodox communities. For over 7 years, he's worked closely with families navigating complex estrangement dynamics, helping parents and adult children move from pain and disconnection toward healing, reconnection, and personal growth. Holding a master's degree in leadership and identity, Tuvia brings both academic insight and real-world coaching experience to his emotionally charged and often misunderstood space. He's the creator of the Mindset Shift Blueprint and Communicate and Reconnect, a coaching framework for online courses that help guide hundreds of families through some of the most difficult conversations and relationships obstacles. He's also proud support staff member at Broken Ties, one of the few dedicated resources addressing the family estrangement Orthodox community. His work has been featured in the Jewish Link, the 1840 podcast, which I only know of Coach Menachem podcast. Several other media platforms helping bring great awareness with compassionate solutions to the growing issue. The combination of professional training, personal experience, and deep sensitivity to the cultural and religious dimensions of the family, Tuvia offers a unique perspective in the global conversation around parental alienation and family estrangement. I just want to mention one thing before Tuvia speaks personally, is that this topic actually, broken ties, reached out to me quite a long time ago, a few years ago, and I've been pushing off this topic, but in the last year or so, there's just been so many stories of adult children, people that I know, just like not inviting them to simchos, and just so much disconnection. It's like it's becoming almost rampant. Like for the people that are not familiar with it, Baruch Hashem, like if you don't know what cancer is, it's great, but it's becoming more and more. And I'm not talking about, obviously the divorce thing's been going on for thousands of years. Like that's we all know about. But this adult thing is like a whole, situation. So I just felt that because I'm recently, just even recently, I just heard 3 or 4 stories. Like I feel like it's something that we really have to tackle tonight and talk about it and get some clarity and really get some healing. So Tuvia, thank you again for coming on. And the floor is yours. Everybody should know Tuvia is in Israel, and as you can see, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and he usually, he's up usually the whole night. So perfect, Tuvia, it's all yours.
Who needs sleep? Thank you so much for that kind introduction. And it's really an honor. It's very humbling to be here with Hindy and you, Ashi, and Coach Menachem. This is a tough topic, as everybody's continued to mention. And over the last 7 years, I've had the opportunity to hear from both sides of this topic, both the parents and the children, most likely adult children. We're hoping that tonight, some of our experience and information can simply start a conversation between parent and child. We say that estrangement isn't an end point, it's a starting point, especially if you see it as one. And it takes a bit of a mindset shift to be able to get into that space. But once you're there, you can see that there's something going on. There's a breakdown of sorts. Hindi did such an amazing job of defining what the parent potentially is seeing in this sugya. The parents here in this equation are feeling alienated and estranged, ignored. They're feeling accused and silenced, disconnected, and shut out of their own families' lives, families that they raised and built over many, many years. But for the adult children, it's a bit of a different story. And I think it's important to recognize what they might be experiencing as well. The adult children, I speak to the adult children just because that's where the majority of my experience lies, are feeling in a way like cutting off contact with their parents or distancing themselves from their parents is their only choice. They're feeling potentially like they're protecting their own emotional well-being. That distance is really a form of safety, emotional safety, which is another buzzword I think we'll hear many times over tonight. Potentially a way to create space so that they can figure out what's good for them and what's good potentially for their own family, and to honor their boundaries. And so when one parent says, I'm alienated or estranged from my child, as Coach Menachem so eloquently said earlier, there's another side to this where children feel like this is a necessary part of moving through life in a little bit more of an easy way. There's a bridge here, and that's what Hindy and I have been doing for the last couple of years, is trying to create this bridge. The bridge is without blame. It's two hearts, both aching, both misunderstood. As Coach Menachem said, there are two perspectives, two people seeing the same experience in two totally different ways. We need to move through this with compassion and not accusation. This is not about you said this and I said that. This is about how can we begin to better understand where each one of us is coming from so that we can open the door to potential healing, family healing. Not only does alienation affect the parent and the child in this case, but it affects the entire family, potentially grandchildren, and most likely grandchildren who are without their grandparents. It affects relationships and shalom bias within the home and within the community. People are ashamed. There's a lot of guilt in going out into the community. Parents are being asked, how are your kids? How's your family? And it's embarrassing for them. And also the adult children potentially are having simchas for their children and being asked, where are your parents? And these are difficult conversations. And tonight, I think we're beginning this journey of exposing what's actually going on. And use the word rampant, Oshi, earlier. This is rampant in the frum communities. We think we know why. We think there's a few different reasons of how we got here, but the true ichor of this is about communication. It's a breakdown in communication. In fact, most relationships fail as a result of breaking down in communication. What you say and what you mean to say are usually two different things, and those things are skewed or changed based upon how you feel at any given time. And so we understand that this is a process. It takes time to rebuild. It takes patience to heal. It takes understanding, a shift in perspective on both sides. Parents must understand that their kids are hurting, that they may have grown up and not felt heard and not felt seen. Or maybe they see their parents' actions as controlling or potentially manipulating in some ways. But that's a starting point for opening conversation. And if they can begin to hear each other, shift in just looking at their perspective to looking at both perspectives, that is the definition of humility. When I only look at my perspective, that's driven by ego and fear. And so the ability to start learning and understanding and broadening your perspective really makes all of the difference. I believe that if both sides of this sugya can learn tools of communication, how to validate one another, I think we'll get into this later, but how to create, communicate, and enforce boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They're a kalim, a vessel that's created so that people can feel safe, safe to speak their mind and to say what they mean and to not feel like they're going to be put on the defense. Remembering that with calm and confidence, with openness and curiosity, we could begin to develop the conversation. And with the right support and the right help and the right intention, we really believe deeply that families can come back together and heal as one. What's happening today is going to affect future generations. And it's sad. We go out into the world, we see all of this horror, and we look inside ourselves and our own homes, and our families are ripped apart. And so we're hoping to support this conversation in a way that feels good for everybody. We know that everybody's coming with a different set of experiences. So we hope that we'll be able to offer the right strategy and the right tactics for moving forward.
Okay, beautiful. Let's get into it tonight. Again, anybody who wants to ask a lot of questions, we have Tuvia and Hindy here that live and breathe this. Everything's on the table. Feel free to ask anything. And again, tonight is a place to discuss and to be a place to hear everybody's feelings and everybody's opinions and to take from that and to grow together. We all want to heal together. Let's do it with a poll. We broke up the polls. Tuvia, I broke it up 3, and then I have 2 for later if we decide to get to it.
Okay.
3-question poll. Everybody answer to the best of your ability. When communication breaks down in a relationship, what do you find the hardest to rebuild? Right? You have communication, you're dealing with a parent, a son, a child. What's the hardest part to rebuild? A, trust. B, safety. C, understanding. Or D, hope. Very basic question. Second question. What usually stops you from reaching out after a painful interaction? A, fear of rejection. B, not knowing what to say. C, feeling it won't make a difference anyway. Or D, wanting more time to heal. They're not ready yet. Question 3, in your opinion, what's the first step towards healing a divided relationship? A, listening without defending. B, offering genuine validation. C, taking personal accountability. Or D, inviting open, calm dialogue. Five more seconds, and then we'll share the polls. We'll review them, and then we're going to go to the questions. Three, two, one. Here we go. Tuvia, Mrs. Herman, when communication breaks down in a relationship, what do you find the hardest to rebuild? 50% of people, the number one answer is trust. 15% safety, 29% understanding, and 7% hope. So it seems like trust. When the communication breaks down, that's what happens. Nobody trusts each other. Any comment on that?
Well, I'd like to say that I think the first thing really that amongst these four, trust, safety, understanding, and hope, the first thing you really need is understanding in order to feel that sense of safety and that trust. Hope is something we always have to work on, and hope is something that will lead us to do that. When we give up hope, we're not going to be able to do any of them. But to really truly be able to understand and hear what someone else is saying, right, will eventually lead us to feeling safe with them, and hopefully that they should feel safe with us, and to be able to rebuild the trust that we want them to feel in us and the trust that we want to feel in them. But if we can't understand where they're coming from and what their perspective might be, it's going to be very, very hard to do that. What do you say, Tuvia?
Yeah, thank you. I would just simply add that, from my vantage point, trust and safety are almost one and the same, right? They sort of stand on each other's shoulders. I like to think about safety meaning consistency over time, right? If a parent shows up one way and then another, or vice versa, it's hard to feel safe. And so trusting is about being consistent in the way that you show up, in the way that you speak, in the way that you respond to things. And this is why communication suffers, because people aren't really sure. They're feeling attacked, defensive, and they go into what we call fight or flight, which is a physiological response to the mind's perception of fear, worry, and danger. And when in that state of fight or flight, as Rabbi Shimon Russell speaks about, it takes a person offline. And when a person is offline, it's like disconnecting your internet cable from your computer. There's no transfer of information. And so that safety, right, diffusing that fight or flight, feeling like you're calm and relaxed is key. And then showing up every time in the same way with real intention is really what is going to drive that level of trust, so that people can begin to open up and to feel like their voice matters and what they're saying means something to the other person.
Number two, what usually stops you from reaching out after a painful interaction with a parent to the child to the parent? Number one answer, 40%, fear of rejection. Wow. 12% not knowing what to say. Number two answer, 36%, feeling it won't make a difference. 12% wanting more time to heal. Any comment on that?
Fear is the one single thing that will block anybody from taking the action that they think will move them towards what they want to be. Fear's a tough one. We have to work hard towards overcoming fear, and to know that fear is just an alarm bell. It's just signaling that we care and that this actually matters to us. And so moving through fear of rejection is about you. If you can shift from fear to curiosity or openness, you can begin to move into a space of understanding, right? Figuring out what needs to be done in order to move the conversation forward. So fear's a tough one, what we think will happen will probably happen. So you have to be careful. You have to go in with the right mindset, right? If you can leave the door open, you'll see potential opportunities. If you're worried that things will go wrong, your mind will find every reason to prove itself correct.
I think also we talk about feeling it won't make a difference. As Tuvia spoke before, this takes time, and it's a process of being consistent over time with the same tools. And it's when you feel like sometimes you're doing this and you're just not seeing the desired results, to remind yourself, I haven't seen it yet. But to stay consistent on this and to keep going, because it's a process. There's tiny little steps to take over time. It's not one big swing in one direction or the other. But when we just feel so hopeless, we just tend to give up, and then we stop doing it altogether. So I think that is something that could really, really stop the communication from continuing and from moving forward. Just plain old giving up.
Yeah. Number three, in your opinion, what's the first step towards healing a divided relationship? 26% listening without defending. 10% offering genuine validation. 26% taking personal accountability. 38%, the number one answer, inviting open, calm dialogue.
So I think that really taking responsibility is the number one place to start. I think these are all important, but taking responsibility really means to be the one to take the lead here and to say, I can't change anybody else here. I can't change how they're going to do this, how they're going to see this. But if I want something done differently, I'm going to go start doing it. And I'm going to learn the tools how to do it. So I think everything really comes after that. They're all important, but taking that responsibility is, in my opinion, number one.
Yeah. We hear the term reconnection thrown around when there's distance, when there's silence, when there's alienation. We hear that, one must reconnect. Hindy and I often defer that word because it's often one-sided. Instead, we like to use the framework of co-creating a relationship that works for both
Well,
parties, for the parent and potentially for the child. And that is something that takes some time and understanding, remembering that healing is a starting point, it's not an end point, right? This is a process that unfolds over time and with small steps. I always say that people make a fatal mistake of trying to get the relationship back. They're working so hard. I want to get things back to where they always were. That's heavy. There's a lot of pressure to go back to where something was, especially after a disconnection or some level of estrangement. And so the idea is to really shift here and to think about this as taking small steps that will begin to move you closer to where you want to be. And to know that if you can put yourself in a space of real understanding, that this thing will develop on its own. We don't have to go after the relationship. We go after the connection. And through a level of effective communication, that is built on emotional connection, you'll see the relationship will develop after that. It takes a little bit of pressure off, I think, the entire scenario.
Okay, let's get into it. Everybody, again, if has questions, please ask. Here we go. You're on first.
Okay, my question is a recently married daughter, Baruch Hashem, and seems like we have a decent, I would say, positive connection until now. During engagement was challenging, and that's when like the alienation started, and she just seemed to decide that she doesn't need me anymore, and whatever she has in her mind is the right way. And now, if I say anything, the only thing that she wants me to hear is if you do it my way, then I will connect to you.
Tuvia, take it.
First of all, I can hear the pain in your voice, and thank you for being the first one to speak up. This is so tough for parents to go through. It's almost like a hostage situation, and I hate to use that as an example after everything that we've all experienced here, especially living in Israel and chas v'shalom. But one day your kids are in your arms, and the next day they're not. And we recognize with a deep sense of compassion where you're starting. It's hard to answer some of these questions without knowing a little bit of context, but I hear you saying things like, she's decided that she doesn't need me anymore. Those words seem to be fueled by your pain and not necessarily your understanding of potentially what's going on for your daughter. I like to say, hurt people hurt people. If it looks good on Instagram or if it looks good on the outside, that's one thing. But if somebody's cutting off contact or showing their parent that they don't need them anymore, then there's something else going on. And so I think your job, if you can, first put your own mask on first, make sure that you're finding joy in your life and there's some level of hopefulness and that you're not grasping to try to get this relationship back. And when you're in that space, see if you could try to understand. If your daughter says to you, the only way we can do this is if it's done my way, great. Well, what is your way? And that doesn't mean you have to accept what her way is, but again, using that as an opportunity to open up the conversation is everything. Remember, what people say and what they mean by what they say are two completely different things, always skewed by how you feel at any given time. So understand what she is really doing here, I think, is setting some level of boundary, which is a buzzword and one that might trigger some of you, because boundaries in some cases feel like walls. They feel like this is a hard line, a red line in the sand, a fence, don't cross it. But boundaries, if done right, which is something that we really work on, is to invite safety through what somebody is willing to give to a relationship and what somebody is willing to receive from a relationship. And so everybody needs to clearly define what their way is and to know that their way is really just a way of saying, I'm scared and any other way doesn't feel right for me, at least not right now. And so, as the parent here, you have the opportunity to guide and to empower your daughter by really learning more about what she means here and what she would like from the relationship and how she does think that it can improve. Remember, mindset is everything, but it has to also mirror what you're saying and what you're doing.
One sec.
Thank you for that clarity.
Okay, let's go to the next live question. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Amazing.
Okay, thank you so much. This is very hard for me because I never spoke about this. I don't think I ever even articulated, even though I'm in therapy, I don't think I ever articulated this out in like words and especially in public. And I care about this a lot, and there's a lot I have to say, and there's a lot I want to ask.
Good.
Yeah. So I'm the kid that doesn't live home, that was alienated. It's going to be almost 6 years. But I remember going through feelings of extreme rejection, I think from before I was 12. So I don't live home already, it's going to be 6 years.
Just to clarify, your parents alienated you.
Correct. My parents told me when I was 18, I had left home. I was locked out of my house once. I did leave home once when I was, there was a lot of physical abuse going on. But when I left for the final time, my parents told me that if I don't pick up and leave, they're just going to kick me out and I'm going to be left with the shirt on my back. So rather you go for it and pack up, like this, we won't have to send you and you're just going to have the shirt on your back. One of the things I really want to talk about is, number one, zero support there's so much support for the parents. I went on to Tie or Not, what's it called? What's the organization called?
Broken
Mr.
Touch.
Nafshi?
Okay. Yeah.
Broken.
Yeah. So I went on to their website on Thursday, and I was immediately triggered because there's so much support for the parents. And I was a little kid begging and reaching out to Rabbanim and to people in the community, and there was nobody to talk to. Take your medication, take your this, because you're obviously the problem, because your parents are prominent people in the community, so you take care of you. Another part, the rejection. No kid chooses this. This is harder than any divorce. No kid ever chooses to leave a door that they know that they can never walk back into. They know that all shidduchim are ruined, and they need to look away at stuff, and they will never be accepted in the community the same way. No one makes the choice. No child. There's so much talk about the parents. I speak to the children. No child makes the choice willingly to leave, knowing that they can never come back. Their siblings, I'm the oldest of a family of 6, and not to be able to see my siblings. Not my younger brother got married this past year. I found out that he got engaged from the street. That is like the hardest choice I think a person needs like needs to ever make. It's not the divorce. It's not, I feel like a divorce, they still have support from family. Here, there's like zero. They have to, I like to say, I'm 6 years old now because I started out life again, had to find support, who works for me, who's lying, who's in it for like chesed, and we're like the chashuva people in the community, like, so we're taking care of you, or really we think you're nuts because who leaves home? Who leaves home? And the third part to my question is, you know, and this is like the most important because I do try to work on myself and I am after the truth. So the third part to what I want to discuss is it really the right thing to make up? Because, you know, like the saying, but they're your family, right? And I am theirs, and they did nothing about it. I am their family, and they brought me into this world. So my question is, do we even have to make up? I'm constantly, I strive because that's just my nature. This Pesach, I met my father outside shul, and I asked him if I could come to the Seder because I just missed how he sang Hallel, and I just begged him to come, and I was told no. So it's not fear of rejection, like Mr. Blau said. It's not fear of rejection. There is a pattern of rejection. It's not fear. There's a pattern of rejection. So after such a pattern of rejection, do we need to, is there a chiyuv to make up with my parents? Because there's no das Torah to ask. There's not enough people in the field for me to reach out. And this was always something I struggled with. Like, who said I need to make up? They're your family. Exactly. They're my family. And they weren't family when they needed to be family. I was 18 years old and living and I left home.
Wow.
Okay, Hindy, please take this one.
First of all, I really feel your pain, and I happen to agree with you. There's very little support out there for children who are alienated from their parents. And usually when we think of estrangement, parental alienation, we assume that it's a child that cut off a parent. But every once in a while, and I know others like you, it's a parent who cut off their children. And it's extremely painful. And I feel your pain, and I've seen it and I know it, and I'm crying here with you, believe me. I want to share with you something that my Rav told me when I asked him this, when I got involved with this. There is a mitzvah of kibbud av va'em, and it's a chiyuv. The mitzvah of kibbud av va'em is a chiyuv when your parent wants you in their life. That's number one. And this was what my Rav Zolti told me, and I hold it from him very dearly. If a parent is rejecting a child, then the mitzvah of kibbud av va'em does not exist for that child at that time. It's not your mitzvah right now. If a time reaches that your parents do want to have a connection with you, that's when the mitzvah does become a chiyuv to you, and it is your mitzvah again. But until then, it's as if it's just not yours. It doesn't belong to you. If you do reach a point, and it sounds to me like I am hearing that you do want to have some kind of reconnection back with your parents. You asked your father to come to a Pesach Seder. And I hear you telling me why, and I hear your point why. But I'm also hearing you tell me that you do want to. And I believe that's because every child in this world longs for a connection to a parent, no matter what.
Why?
Because that's the way Hashem created us. We long to be supported and
no,
loved by
for real. Why? I don't understand it.
I don't know why, but I know that it is. And this is the way Hashem created us. It's not something I can explain why, but this is so. Every child, even if they feel the most mistreated and misunderstood, longs for a day that their parents will appreciate them and will understand them. And I know this to be true. I don't know why, but I know that this is how Hashem created us. And the fact that you do, right? When you hear at opening that your parents are interested, right? You can take that lead yourself. And you can reach out to them in a way of actually trying to understand them, because it sounds to me that they have a lot of limitations. And if you can see them from a new way of, rather than anger and frustration and judgment, to start to feel almost, actually, yes, compassion for them, because they're limited. right? They don't know what it means to be the parent that you need. They don't have those tools. Maybe they were raised in a home that they didn't receive it themselves, right? Our parents are coming from different generations. Some of them are Holocaust survivors. They didn't have their own parents. They're missing things. If you can reach a place and do that work to shift your perspective and see them from a place of really feeling sorry for them, that they're able to throw a child out of their home, you might be able to see them in a new way and reach out to them in a new way. When the time is right, and you might feel ready for that.
But so it's not, because there is that like big pressure also on children, right? Because parents don't. I remember once Erev Yom Kippur, I had an incident with my father, and my father took out the machzor and he showed me, like, show me where it says in the Al that I'm not allowed to I can't even say that in my mouth. Show me where it says. And every Yom Kippur, I would like literally scan the Al and I would look for it, because it couldn't be that he's not guilty. And I asked it from someone very special that did end up being a very good support for me. And she said, they disgraced their position as parents. They disgraced it. So there is that big pressure of forgiveness, right? Even forgiveness became such a trendy term. Like Louise Hay put so much pressure on forgiveness. So do you need to forgive, or is it tackle that, like, they don't want me, they made that choice, and I could be calm because I promise I'll take that because I'm so desperate for it, because a child that leaves home and the guilt of worrying about even the younger siblings shidduchim and it's all of that, it's very, very heavy. So to know that I could let go of that, I just need confirmation one more time.
I feel that, when you're ready to forgive, it would take a real burden off of you. Forgiveness really lightens us. It lets us let go, right? And to move forward in life, and to realize that you have a lot to live for, to find joy in your life every day. And you could, by forgiving, I don't want you to forgive because of pressure to forgive from the outside world, but to do it for yourself. And if you can really view your parents differently, from a different perspective, it might be easier to forgive them because you'll understand the limitations that they have. But once you do choose that path of forgiveness, you'll be able to move forward in a whole new way, really building your life up, living for yourself, finding meaning in your life every day, building your home. It will just lighten everything about you. It lets go of all the baggage. And I do think, really, for your sake, it would be the best thing for you to do. At the time that you're ready. Again, no pressure. It takes time. Take it slow steps. But I really think it starts with really trying to take a step back and understand how limited they really are.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, let's go to the next part. I have a lot of live questions, but I want to read this. Somebody texted me. For all the parents that don't talk to the kids, and for all the kids that don't talk to the parents. My mother and her mother, my grandmother, are not speaking anymore. It's very difficult for me to be in the middle. What advice do you have for me? So understand, as we start building this walls of alienation, you're going to have kids, and they're going to be grandkids, and they're going to be texting me on the Zhir, what should I do? Tuvia, take that away.
Yeah. This is also a tough one. There's so many moving parts. And I think, as we continue to say, this doesn't just affect the two people who aren't talking. It affects everybody in the family. Sometimes we think about, if the child, cuts off contact with their parent, then you're also teaching others that it's okay to cut off. And that's how conflict is resolved. Oshi, maybe there's a little more context. It sounds like this person.
The point is, it's a text, they don't want to ask live. The point is, understand that this situation, you don't talk to the other person, to your father, to your mother, or like this girl has, her parents don't talk to her. You could have your reasons, you could have valid, not valid. It's all cute. dandy, and we could discuss about why for yourself people need to heal. Well, like that's what she was asking, like, why do I need to speak to my parents? Like, what's the point? Well, why should, what's the, okay, your kid doesn't talk to you, so who cares? I don't need my kid in my life. But understand how it affects all the other kids. And don't forget, there'll be grandkids. So you could just think to the kid that alienates a parent, they're going to have kids one day.
Yeah.
They're teaching their kids,
How to not talk
oh,
to them.
you have a problem with your father and mother? Not a problem. I won't talk to you either. You're giving that.
I say estrangement, yeah. It's hereditary. I call estrangement hereditary.
And I'm going to say this, and you could say if I'm wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like it's coming more and more in the frum world now because we were brought up with that strength. Our generation, our Tuvia, me and you, like the 50-year-olds, were brought up with that generation of like your parent could be the worst parent in the world. And I've seen this with my parents, grandparents, like they would like smack them and they would scream at them, they would belittle them. And that was part of life. Like, you never spoke out of place. Okay, so chutzpah is more worse. But this concept is coming because in the non-Jewish world, the relationship with a parent and a child is very distant. No parent lives in the child's house. No, a non-Jewish parent, you go visit the parent, on Sunday, on Super Bowl Sunday, you go, you invite him over. There's no close relationship. So if a parent is uncomfortable or doesn't make me feel good, or makes me feel unsafe, then just let me cut him out of my life. But it's really coming influence from the Goyish world because in our society, our family is like the site. It's generation from generation back to Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's just what I feel because I see in the Goyish world it's so even people that have decent relationships they're pretty distant. But the ones that the second the father or mother they don't like they'll speak to them literally almost never. Once a year. This concept of like a parent. Just recently, I'm gonna say a story like somebody I know, like great parent, whatever, and then the daughter got upset at the parent. Okay, there was a story there. Obviously, there's always a story. And she had another child, and they didn't invite the parent to the simcha because they were so angry at them. Like, and now this parent understand now he has a bunch of brothers and sisters, and they have now grandkids. It's like it becomes like a disaster. So anyway, Tuvia, so back to the question.
No,
So
it's
the
it's an
grandchild
entangled.
it's entangled. So the grandchild now is reaching out, like, I love my mother.
Ah,
It's my grandmother.
what do I
Deal
do?
with this, right?
Yeah. No, I want to just, respond to what you said. You're right. This is coming from the Goyish world in the sense that, the culture of today and today's generation is all about chart your own course, be your own person, right? Your health and well-being matters, and you should protect yourself and create space and all of these things. And that almost goes against the values that the religious world and religious communities have set forth. But I think because of all the openness of internet and Instagram and all this ability to see what's going on out there, I think that's actually at the icker of what's really happening and why this is becoming so rampant so quickly as things become um, out there. There are many people who speak on these topics. There's many famous people out there who are saying, you know what? I haven't spoke to my family. It's easier to cut off. And again, it is easy to cut off. I think what the question really is about is trying to figure out what can I do? Where's my place, right? I love my mother. I love my grandmother. I see that there is a disconnection, but what am I left to do? And it's an extremely tough scenario and everybody around you is affected as well. Look, I think that the only thing that anybody can do is to do their absolute best, right? To try to understand or to be supportive. And in some respects, if you feel comfortable enough to encourage and to maybe understand what's going on for mom. It's difficult in this situation as the child going to the parent and saying, hey, like what's going on with you and your mother. But yeah, it's something that almost in some ways needs to be done. We try to avoid getting others involved in trying to reconnect each other. That almost usually causes more problems. But in the end, this is about learning and understanding and leading with compassion. Something's going on for mom. Maybe there's a deeper sense of pain. Maybe this person could encourage their mother to seek some level of support or guidance. And maybe she can share how important it is that our family is together. And maybe she can even share how she feels emotionally about what it's like to be in a situation where I have to see this and deal with this and be a part of this, and how important it is that our family comes together in a calm and gentle way. There's no right or wrong here. It's really trying to put the pieces back together in a puzzle that's, in many different colors. It's very difficult.
Okay, let's go to the next
I'd
live
like
question.
to add something to that. I'd just like to add something to that for a second. I would really try to discourage this person from trying to do any type of mediating and thinking that she could
Right.
fix this, because it'll only backfire and get worse.
Yep. Okay. Hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm a teacher and I get dragged into many situations with students. So when a student calls me and she lets me know that she doesn't want to talk to her parents anymore, I let her know that the only way I'm going to be involved is if she lets me be in touch with the parents for her. And the only goal of therapy is to get her to get back to her parents, not the therapist, which today's Naya Mahalach is, to teach the kids how to leave their parents and then get the story behind them also. My
Right.
question is, when a parent calls me and the student doesn't want to talk to me, and she says, my daughter doesn't want to tell me who her therapist is, she doesn't want to tell me who her dastira is, I'm supposed to be a Navi to know what I did wrong. I don't know what else to tell the parents. What else can they do? If the student doesn't want to talk to me, doesn't want to give us any information, do you have any other advice what I could help these parents with? With students, at least when they reach out to me, I have a way to talk to them. Is there anything else I could tell these parents besides actively listening to them?
Hindy, Tuvia.
Oh,
I would say really there's not that much you could really do except to really hear the parents, like you said, and to validate them. But I would stay away from trying to get involved in doing any sort of fixing here. It won't work. And to really listen to the mother and to encourage her to maybe get some help in trying to reach out to her daughter is the most really that you could do. What about you, Tuvia?
yeah, it's a very difficult scenario, right? And we agree, by the way, there are some therapists out there that are validating the children and saying space is best and you should and you can and kids take that and run with it. I think it's really about trying to uncover as much information as you possibly can and to possibly know that in time, some of this information will come out. I like to say you don't have all the information yet, but if you can, just start to facilitate asking questions and learning and trying to see like what is really at the root cause of this. If a child is cutting off contact with their parent, they're in some level of pain. And there could potentially be something a little bit deeper than just what is being seen on the surface. And so if you can, in a way, find some, avenue of getting deeper and trying to learn more about what that pain actually is, maybe that will begin the conversation, moving forward.
In other words, I should be validating the student first.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful with validation. Remember, validation is not an agreement, right? Validation is to let somebody know that you heard what they said in the way that they intended for it to be heard. So we have to be careful. Everybody needs validation, especially children, right? They want to be validated and seen and heard for who they are by their own parents. And so a lot of times, the child of any age will go and seek, if they're not getting that same validation from their parent, they'll seek validation in other places, which is why, quote, therapists tend to get a strong grip on people is because they're experts at validating like your right to feel the way that you do and your right to see things the way that you do and your opinion matters and your emotions are certainly valid here and that feels good, right? So I think we just have to be careful. It's a very tight line to walk, but certainly putting yourself in a compassionate position to not try to fix or change, but instead, be there with them, validating what you're hearing them say, and then beginning to ask more open-ended questions to try to understand really what's behind what's going on for them, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay, amazing. Let's go to the next live question you're on.
Me?
Yep.
Hi, okay. So I have a child, a daughter who we had a perfect, normal, happy, healthy upbringing, relationship. Everything was fine until she got married. And we discovered after they got married slowly, withdrawal, disconnect, until we figured out and we got to see this, we got to observe in person, severe control on the spouses and manipulation, borderline emotional and psychological abuse, neglect, a lot of neglect, and very self-centeredness. We kind of like started talking to professionals and trying to understand what we're seeing. And the bottom line is we're dealing with a spouse, a husband who is a very extreme narcissist, a emotional con artist, a liar. He made his stories. He fabricated.
This is your son-in-law?
Yeah. Made up stories about us that never happened, managed to manipulate his therapist, the therapy sessions, his Rosh Hashiva. He got Torah behind him. He got professional advice, which he all managed to lie, manipulate, and get them to believe his version of the story as the only credible version. No one was willing to hear our side, what we are seeing on our end, and what is very serious concerns to us. And as a result of that, slowly, without going into all the details, he cut her off from the entire family, from her siblings, her parents, anything from her past, she was cut off from. Anything that has to do with her past. And most of society and most of her friends, he controls everything, controls whether she could have a job, everything. For example, she had a baby, he controls when she should feed, how she should feed, every little detail. He sort of hijacked her brain and hijacked her mind to a point where she became completely dependent on him for her only lifeline. And she lost her independent thinking. She can't even make a simple decision for herself. So much so that we witnessed in front of us right before he cut her off. If she wanted to drink, she was asking him if it's okay for her to drink. That's how crazy it was. So when you're dealing with a psycho, a sick person who, now that I'm very educated because I've been talking to a lot of professionals and I'm trying to understand the psycho of such a reality, they're not approachable. He doesn't want peace. A narcissist doesn't want, you can't communicate with him. He doesn't want peace. He told us he doesn't want peace. He's not interested. All he wants is to defend himself and control. So she is in his control. She is petrified of him. She's not even aware that she's being abused and manipulated and controlled. She thinks she's being a loyal wife. How do you even bring awareness to her, like that she fell into a very sick bed and she needs to reach out and get help, not from the professional that he's recommending, because he manipulated the whole situation and has everyone believing that, we're the problem, the parents. The parents are the problem.
Do you have
Yeah.
I'm just curious, do you have any connection with her, or are you using text message or email, or it's complete cutoff?
They treat us like we don't exist.
For
the
how
only
long?
time they're 2.5 years. The only time since she got married, since she had her first child. So the only time there's a text message is when he allows her to text us. For example, Erev Rosh Hashanah, she reached out in a text message and said, "Have a good Yantif" or something, or Gemar Chasim Tov or something, and that's it. And I respond, but there's nothing after that.
Could you tell me what you responded?
You too. Have a good Giben Shtiyar. Thank you so much for your message. It means the world to us, and wishing you a good Giyar or whatever, something along those lines.
Yeah. Hindy and I like to call those conversation enders. Yeah. These are the opportunities that we believe Hashem puts in our way to further the communication and further the connection. And so one of the techniques that we really work with is validation, and to ask what we call open-ended questions, right? If you ask somebody a question, their mind is naturally going to search for the answer. And so saying thank you, you too, shuts the door in offering or trying to get any information back from them. And that's really when we talk about what communication is, this is what we mean is to use these little, breaks or these little cracks of light that's shining through to begin to
I'm going to
prop.
pause you for a second, okay? Because this is the question that came in just now, so I feel like it'll tie in well.
Okay, great.
I reached out to so many times to my married son who's 32 with 2 children through letters, messages, and phone calls, trying to apologize or make things right, but there's no response. It feels like I'm shouting into the void and wearing me down.
Mhm.
What does it seem
Okay.
like I should try? The further they pull away, what could I do possibly different to rebuild the connection at all? Similar, issue. Like what
Yeah.
could they do? Well, nice, there's no connection.
Right.
All right, there's a
Right.
lot here, right? So this is really the meat of the work that we do. First of all, slow down, right? If you can, I know this might be inciting, but pause and take a deep breath, right? This is about creating a strategy and then executing on the strategy. Sending apology letters usually doesn't work, especially when the other side is not in the proper space to hear what you're saying. And I think that's really hard. You are screaming into a void because they're not connected consciously to what you're saying. So I would stop sending messages that usually sound like, we love you, we're here from you, we're here for you. We miss you. Those things are heavy and they add a level of pressure. And so we use these techniques called validation, right? We say things like, it might be hard for you, right? Or you may have mixed emotions about hearing from me, or, it's been some time since the last time we've spoken, right? To be neutral and factual in your approach. And then to ask what we call open-ended questions, right? What would you need to feel comfortable, exchanging text messages with me before Shabbos? Or, what's one thing that you're looking forward to over Yontif that you'd be willing to share with me? And to create some space and some runway so that the child feels like, okay, I want to offer up some information. We like to call this stage of the process the information gathering phase, right? We have to learn more. We think it's the wrong approach to start sending letters and text messages. It's too much and it's going nowhere. And so the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It takes a shift completely in what you're doing. And Hindy, maybe you want to just add, but I really do believe that there's a way to communicate. And most of us, especially in the Frum community, we lack those skills. We lack those tools. And that's really the process that we've tried to empower the people that we work with, is to give them those tools and to learn how to use them, not only what to say, but also what to say once the child responds. And if they don't respond, to recognize that that's a response. No response is a response. It's telling you something. There's a decoding of these messages, meaning if the child's not responding, it means that they're not feeling comfortable or safe, or they're not ready yet, or what you've asked them is causing them too much pressure. There's always information. We have to learn how to acquire that information in the right way. Hindy, maybe you can add.
I'm hearing you say that your son-in-law is a narcissist and you really would like your daughter to get help. And I hear that, and it's a very, very painful situation. And that's exactly what we're talking about at the alienation when somebody gets married.
Yeah.
That's the classic example. But I'm hearing you say also that you really want to get the message to her that she needs help. Really, what you need to do first is to take a step back, go slow, to use this opportunity, like Tuvia said, when you receive that text message, to develop some open communication, not to get her to seek help. We're not looking to change her right now. That's not where we're holding. We're looking to make her feel safe with us, to create a place of safety, to reach out to her with those open-ended questions, to gather some information, to start to develop a conversation again, and to hopefully get some dialogue going here. And hopefully at some point she'll realize that she needs that help on her own. But you're not going to be able to change her situation. She believes in what she's hearing from her husband. This became, as we said before, this became her reality. So we need to meet her where she is. And to try to change her right now is only going to backfire. You have to first try to get through to her in a way that she can hear you. As far as you said about the apologies about this woman, this other message that came in about a woman trying to send apologies to her son also as well. As Tuvia said, you're jumping here. right? We're not even sure sometimes what we're apologizing for, and we don't even mean it. And our kids pick up on that. We don't know why they're apologizing, and it's not authentic. And then we're upset that we're not getting, I hear you back, or they're, why they're not responding, or they're telling us you don't really mean it, because we don't know really what it is that they need from us. What they really need from us is not necessarily the apology right now, but it's just to start hearing them and understanding their perspective of what they're going through. Maybe at a later date, we could apologize if we have something to apologize for, right? And when they're ready to hear it, but now's not that time yet.
Yeah. I was working with a family very recently where for over 2.5 years, the daughter didn't speak to the mother or to the father for that fact. And she asked, the typical words from the child are, I'm healing, I'm creating space for myself. And the mother used opportunities to make sure that the fundamental relationship through connection was there. And through, constant and consistent action, right? Always validating, always asking the right types of open-ended questions. She created space in which when the daughter went into a situation of divorce, she reached out to her parents and said, like, I'm not ready to discuss this with you, but I wanted to let you know where I'm holding. And it was a true testament to how well the mother did in building that level of safety and communication. For your daughter who's experiencing this tough relationship of narcissism, right? We always define narcissism as somebody who's standing in a three-way mirror. They're not able to see for themselves how their actions are affecting everybody else around them, including you, the parent, including other loved ones. So again, you might not get exactly what you want now, as Hindy said, but you should still use this time and space to create a connection and a strong foundation so that when the time is right, you're there. Continuously showing up for your kid, I think, is key, and doing the absolute best that you can without trying to change or fix the situation. That is the true sense of compassion, which, by the way, I think is one of the opportunities for our own personal growth, is to really embrace this sense of compassion, which we like to simply define as sitting in a room, listening to how somebody else feels without trying to change it or fix it for them. And it's a tough position as a loving mother to be in, to not want to help and to fix and to change the scenario for your children. They too are here to have their own experiences and to have their journey. And if there's complete cutoff, using just the opportunities in these messages, Hashem gives us many chagim as an opportunity to reach out and to connect, but to use those opportunities appropriately. And I think that's the key.
Okay, there's a lot of live questions still to go. Somebody texted this question. It's a child saying, I've been disconnected from my parents for many years. I feel much healthier and better. Give me the main reasons why I'd want to, or why should I try to reconnect with my parents? What do I have to gain?
Yeah. First of all, the mitzvah is important to us, right? Kibbud Av is very important to us. I hear very, very deeply and personally that sometimes taking space and cutting off contact might feel good. But I think that if you dig a little bit deeper, family is important. And as Hindy mentioned earlier, Hashem designed us to be connected to our parents. It's important to resolve conflict because future generations depend on it. And I always say, like, if you think you're healed, right, go to a Shabbos meal with your family, right? There's a test here. And if you can use this as an opportunity to further your growth, it doesn't have to be so separate. It doesn't mean like I can grow and heal on my own without my parents. What about healing and growing with your parents? I think that is a real opportunity for your own personal growth. I'm not sure how old this person is, but you're going to have children of your own one day, or maybe you already do. And in that case, you don't want to show them or teach them how to cut off from you, God forbid. And so it's important that we strengthen our relationships rather than tear them down. And I understand that this is daunting. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of heavy emotion. We feel that, you know what, I've created some space for myself and things are okay. And potentially opening up Pandora's box seems frightening to me. But that's where we talk about slow and steady steps, right? Sending a message or maybe thinking about what you're willing to give to your parents, whether that be time or information, and what you're willing to receive from them, and creating boundaries, which again are not walls, but opportunities for there to be a little connection and to see how it feels and to adjust where you need and be open to, potentially learning what it feels like again to be in your parents' grace and to feel loved and to be part of the family. Both sides are hard, right? Cutting off contact is hard. It's hard for the child, it's hard for the parent. And building a or co-creating a healthy and balanced relationship is hard, right? You have the choice to choose which hard you like to move towards.
Hindy, do you have any comment on that?
I think Tuvia brought up a very important point. When we're actively cutting off a parent, we're really still in the state of running away. We're what we call a little bit of fight or flight. We're not in that place of feeling really complete with ourselves and in the calmest place we could be, right? It's cutting off communication. Real healing begins when you can be able to have a conversation with your parents in the boundaries that you set in a way that is comfortable for you to feel safe, right? To do it in a way that you're not going to have to feel that you're running away. But as long as you are cutting someone off, it's really telling yourself, I still have that baggage. I'm still carrying something. And to let go of it is just so much lighter and so much more freeing.
Like
And
Tuvia said,
as Tuvia said, it's really setting an example to what the next generations as well. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, we all have a responsibility. We all have our part in this. And we have to either think like we're gonna rebuild our connection or we're not. I mean, those are the choices. We all have Bechira. And it's not easy. And that's why there's support out there and you should empower yourself with the right types of tools and use this. If I don't want to speak to my mother or my father or somebody else in the family, I should maybe take a look at myself and say, where am I holding? Maybe I need to build a level of confidence, or maybe I'm not exactly sure what I want out of this, and I should spend some time thinking about it and putting yourself in the absolute best position to succeed in the relationship rather than to fail.
And as we said earlier, Tuvia and I both really firmly believe that deep down, everybody really does have that desire to reconnect with a parent, to be approved, to feel approval of a parent, to feel the love of a parent. I know we say, why should we? But sometimes we really know that deep inside ourselves. We just need to hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next live question. Unmute. Hi.
Hey. Oh, hi. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to ask about my son, who's we were very, very close when he was younger, and I went through a divorce. I mean, close in the sense that, he was the youngest of four boys, and he was very cute and had a lot of good ideas, and he would be like he knew I had a hard time with Parnassa, so he'd be like, Ma, do this, Ma, do that. It seems that at some point he went to a psychologist who gave him this idea that maybe that I quote unquote didn't have a husband, so I needed this like male energy or of some sort. And he was this male energy, and he felt like there was too much emotional connection or for some reason. And he decided, so he confronted me with it. The first time he confronted me with it, I said, blame me, accuse me of anything. But he said a certain sentence. He said, I felt, I can't remember it now exactly, but it was something like too much emotional connection. And I wasn't trained by Jason. I remember going to Broken Ties, and I learned a lot. But this was before it, so I said, blame me of anything, but don't even blame me of that. Like, I can't even listen to what you're saying. For me, you were my son, and that was it, nothing else. But of course, it made it worse. And he kind of disconnected, and he disconnected for a long time, a really long time. He blocked me on WhatsApp. He blocked me on social media, on Instagram, everywhere I was blocked, Facebook, everything. So I couldn't even I don't know anything that's going on with him besides what I hear from his siblings. And I saw him at my daughter's wedding, and he said hi. He was very pleasant, but that's it. Nothing else. Cut off. And I wanna start to have a relationship with him, but I don't know how. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to approach. I'm blocked everywhere. I don't know what I'm sure he has his reasons. Now that I wish he gave me an opportunity to validate, to say, you're right.
Yeah.
This is how you feel. You're right. Like you told us, you're right.
You're
Let
a
me
great student.
let
This
me
is
hear
really great.
more.
Yeah.
I want to hear more.
Yeah. Tell me more. What do you mean? Right. What was that like for you? Yeah, Malka, you're doing great.
Thanks.
You,
But I don't even have the chance because I don't know how to reach him. I can't
yeah.
reach him. We haven't spoken in ages. So what do you suggest?
Yeah. Well, you don't have the chance yet. Right. And so we have to look for these opportunities. It was almost like we were saying before, right? We have an opportunity to see him at a simcha. Like, how are you using that opportunity? Are you using it to walk on eggshells? Or are you using it as an opportunity to show up as your best self? Are you, using it as an opportunity to go over to him and say, it might be hard to be in the same room with me, or it might be difficult after all this time to be together. But how are you feeling? How does this feel for you, right? Like to be there with him, rather than trying to move anything forward, and just to validate, for where he potentially is holding, and to use these opportunities to say, like, what would it be like, for us to communicate again, right? And to start developing the conversation, knowing that whatever his response is simply a starting point, right? It's an objection potentially, meaning he doesn't have enough information. If you're cut, this is a common scenario where, people are cut off from text messages and emails. People try all kinds of things, sending packages or using third parties to transfer notes and things like that. So I would need a little bit more information to know exactly what to do in this scenario. But I'll tell you, you have the right mindset, which I really appreciate. You called me Jason, so I know how long you've been around now that I go by Tuvia.
I tried to figure out if it was you, but I remembered you.
I think I put a disclaimer out to let everyone know you have another name and that you're not in your 50s.
But what if I don't have another simcha where I see him? Like,
Yeah.
it could be another 2 years. I don't know.
Do you feel that you're still blocked on the social media, the WhatsApp?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you have an email address?
I do. But anytime I've emailed him, there's been no response. Like, even
Well, remember, no response is a response.
Okay.
And, email is tricky. First of all, email is a great method of communication, especially in this situation, because when somebody receives a text message, right, they look at it and immediately, they react or respond to it. The email is a little tricky. You got to write the right subject title, right? You can't say, a favor to ask, or, Uncle, Uncle Simi's, got something to share, right? You have to be very direct with what you say, and it has to show exactly what's in your email. And then most of us are using email to explain our side of the story. I miss you. I love you. I hope that we can resolve this. I was listening to one of these emails the other day from somebody I was working with, and I counted like 37 I's in like a short paragraph. And so, the method of communication with email should be short, right? You could use a validation, like you so eloquently said. You know, and then you can use an open-ended question, right, to facilitate him potentially responding to that question. Remember, two things have to happen at any given time. One, you have to help your child get the information from their own mind, and then create enough safety for him and yourself that he wants to transfer that information to you. And so emails don't have to be long-winded. They could be in a very similar fashion as text message, in using a short validation and some level of questioning. One question, not 3 or 4 or 10 questions, but just ask one question, right? Like, for example, how long ago were you seeing him at the Simcha?
My daughter got married a year ago, so about a year ago.
Okay, so
Less than. Mhm.
validation could be, it's been a year since we've seen each other, right? Or it's been a year and a half since we met each other at the Simcha, right? How
Mhm.
open are you to sharing what's going on for you in your life, or what would you need to feel comfortable responding to this email? Like, go slow. You don't have to get to the end. You just have to begin the conversation, right? Alleviating pressure as you go, creating that runway. Like Hindy said, every child wants to connect. They don't always know how to. And so you, as the parent in this situation, have an incredible opportunity to be the leader by example. Empower him. When you empower him enough, you'll become empowered because you're both getting an exchange of information that you each other will need in order to facilitate potentially moving to the next step. So don't go so far, so fast, so deep. And if you have access to email, and we'd be happy to support you, like in helping to craft that first message. And you have, it sounds like you have the tools. You've been on enough of our workshops to know. But
I still don't know. Still don't know. But what would be the subject, let's say, if I would send the email like,
yeah, again, whatever it is that you're putting in that email, right? Like, how open would you be to sharing what's going on for you? Would should show up in the subject line, and then it will show up again in the body of the email. We want to show them that we are not trying to hide anything. We are not trying to deceive, manipulate, control in any way. We're putting it out there. This is what the body of the email is going to say, and you have the choice to read it, delete it, read it when you're ready, and we hope that they do that. Seeing
Mhm.
an email from mom can't be easy, right? After all this time. Remember, the kids doubled down in a way. They've continued this disconnection. And so to restart the engines is not easy for him either. And I'm not discounting his behavior whatsoever. But at the
Mhm.
same time, we have to recognize that this is a tough position to be in, and you have a lot of control over you and what you say and how you react and respond. Remember, we don't need to fix it, not yet. We just need to start understanding it. And before we even learn to understand, if we could pull back even further and ask them to think about what would they need to feel comfortable, to feel safe, right? To feel open or to agree to exchanging one message and then starting the ball rolling from there.
Mhm.
He needs to feel safe that, like, okay, this feels okay. Getting this message feels okay. It doesn't feel heavy. There's not so much about mom's emotions and how they feel.
Mhm.
You know, the term abuse, the term incest has been used in these scenarios because the therapists are diagnosing
Yeah.
based upon, what they're asking and what they're hearing back from the child. And so, of course, I'm not blaming or accusing at all. I see very clearly what you were doing, right? You had a beautiful connection with your child. But out of context, right? Whenever a parent potentially shows or puts their emotions upon the child, the therapy world will say that's abusive, right? You
Mhm.
should have spoken to your friend. Don't put your stuff on your child. And
Mhm.
so you could certainly see that now looking back, how that may have been heavy for your child, but it wasn't because you're a bad person or a bad mother. It's just that you did the best you could with the information you have at the time. That's the definition of forgiveness of yourself and others. And again, we use this as a starting point moving forward.
Mhm.
I'd like to add to that, Tuvia. You brought something up. Abuse has taken on many, many, many
Yeah.
meanings. I was reading a book and it has so many, and we're from a different generation where putting your kid in timeout is not abusive. Maybe withholding your money for other withholding some money at a time might be a lesson, and today it's considered abusive. So
Yeah.
many things today are considered abusive, and that's the environment that our kids are growing up with. So they do believe that to be the reality. I agree with Tuvia also that your emails are the way to go, really, and not to give up that hope because he hasn't answered them yet. But with the right direction and the right tools and the right messages, you might be surprised, and just keep plugging at it and don't give up your hope.
Yeah.
And one more thing, sorry. You never know when you're going to see him at the next simcha. To get yourself ready in the meantime, that when you see him at that simcha, you show up as, like Tuvia says, the way you want your future self to experience, right? Show up in a way that you would, with confidence, right? Calm, being able to have that conversation with him when you see him with a big smile, able and ready, and not shocked and not knowing what to do with yourself. You have that time now to do that.
Right. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
doing great. You're doing really, really well.
Thank you.
It's amazing just sitting here and listening to all these stories, and it's so painful. Talking about the grief that people go through, losing relationships and trying to figure out how to. And here's a question that came in, but also what Hindy mentioned before. We want to change this situation, and we're trying. And sometimes, like you're saying, Tuvia, step back, take a deep breath. I wonder if I'll ask the question in a minute, but I wonder if there's some exercise to actually do now, even before you meet them, just to get yourself in a better frame of mind, thinking about them, seeing them in a better light, so that when there is some interaction, it's not desperate and you're not losing it. So that's what I'm wondering. But let me first ask this question that came in. I'll take it from there. Some days I feel completely erased. Like my child and even my grandchildren have written me out of their life. The pain is overwhelming, and I keep asking Hashem, why is this happening to me? I want to find peace and acceptance, but I don't know how. What can I do to stay grounded, keep going, when every day feels like another reminder of what I've lost? So basically, the grief and what can they do now, even before anything, any connection?
Yeah.
I think that's a great question. And really, before we even try to reconnect with our kids, we have to spend a lot of time connecting with ourselves. It all starts with the self. When we're attacked and we become very vulnerable, when our children cut us off, we're in tremendous pain. And it's hard to even wake up in the morning with a smile. It's hard to wake up at all. Most of the work really is finding your own joy in life, spending every day, giving yourself that time and space, using opportunities to find simcha every single day, right? Learning how to appreciate the things we do have in life. And until we really reach that point, it's not a great time to reconnect even, because it won't work as well, right?
Yeah.
Before we even, as Tuvia says, most of the work we do, about 70%, I don't remember the percent number, is really on ourselves. Getting ourselves ready to a place that we're ready to face our children from a new way, with confidence, with calm, right? Having other people in our lives that we enjoy spending time with, finding simcha every single day. As Tuvia says, creating joy, finding the joy in our lives every single day. Joy is, it's a simcha sachayim. It's a contentedness that we're okay with who we are, whether or not we hear from our children today, or whether we do. It's not an if only here. To say if only I would just get back with them, I'm going to be okay. To take that if only away and put in there a whether or not. To wake up every day and say whether or not I'm going to make this a great day for myself. I'm going to find the good here. I'm going to find something that I enjoy and that I'm happy about.
Yeah, it takes the right mindset, Hindy. I think you're exactly right. If you can shift from why is this happening to me to why is this happening for me, or even like what is Hashem trying to show me, and move into that space of gratitude for the opportunity for your own growth. look, challenges are put in our way all the time. This challenge with your family is devastating, and to feel erased and completely wiped away from your kids and your grandkids' memory is absolutely devastating, and you should honor that within yourself, but do it in a way that's healthy and balanced, which means that if you spend, some time thinking about being erased, then find some time to think about where there are people who are really recognizing you and where you're connected and where you're thriving, right? Find that balance in your life. We talk about being grounded. Like, what does that mean? Grounded means to be in your body. The opposite is to be in your mind, to be ruminating and thinking about why and how and I wish and I'm erased. That will deplete you. It draws down your energy. I like to think about the little battery icon that we all see on whatever device you're using, right? It shows at any given time how full or depleted your battery is. And you should ask yourself, where is my battery life? Like, what's my internal battery life on right now? I bet some of you would say 5%, 10%. I remember I was walking through Jerusalem to meet some friends from back in the States for dinner the other day, and my phone was on 10%. And I was in a bit of a panic thinking like, I can't leave the house with 10%. So why would you start to approach somebody else on a low battery life? And joy, as Hindy said, is what actually increases your battery life, right? That's like the instant boost. And that's why people practice. Coach Menachem, you mentioned like, what can we do? There are practices that help a person feel grounded in the here and now, rather than thinking about what was or what might be. The past is gone, the future's uncertain, it's unpredictable, as we all know. And so if you can retrain yourself to stay present, whether that's through practices of meditation or breath exercise, but at the same time, to use the technique of gratitude. Gratitude invokes joy. And so that's the boost that you need. I always say that, people ask, Tuvia, when is the right time to begin to try, to reach out, to reconnect, to try to move the ball forward? And I say not until you're at least 85% sustained battery life, because this is hard work, as you said, Coach Menachem, and people will get knocked down, and it's hard to pick yourself up if you're at 30%. I like to say it's even hard to brush your teeth when you're low in energy, low in battery life. And so to mimic what Hindy was saying, finding joy, focusing on you, not spending Shabbos at home because nobody wants me and I've been erased, but to empower yourself, to reach out to others and to make new connections and to find things that you're interested in and fill your day with some level of simcha, recognizing that you can meet yourself where you are when you're having a bad moment, but those bad moments don't define who you are. They just define how you're feeling. And so you can empower yourself so quickly. When we think about empowering ourselves, right, the battery life goes up and we feel better. When we think about negative thoughts, repetitive thoughts, and how we want other people to change, those things will deplete our battery, right? When we can shift from the negative to the positive, and especially align our actions and think about how we can change and how we want to show up, then it fuels you. It really maximizes your capacity and your will, which drives hopefulness and puts you in a better position, not necessarily to reconnect, but to feel good and to be able to move through your day with a little bit of ease and to recognize that this is tough. It's lonely. It's scary. And you have to honor that. But at the same time, as I was saying earlier, find the balance. Find the balance between what you spend your time on and what you want to spend your time on. Figure out what's good for you and move towards that with grace.
I'd like to add also what you're saying. When we use the word, why is this happening to me? That automatically depletes your battery life. It pulls you down. The word why. We don't know why. We know that Hashem put us here. So I was just discussing with Tuvia earlier, right? The word lama is why in Hebrew. If we can take the word lama, instead say lema, for what purpose am I here right now?
Love
to
that.
change everything around and to see that we're here for a reason. We don't understand what it is, but this is an isayon that Hashem is putting me through right now. And it's something that I need to figure out. But the why is just going to push me down and not help me find that gratitude, find that joy. The lema will help me to get there.
So just to harp a little bit more on what you're saying is just, I think that what people have is that when this happens to them, they start like, what's my life? Is your life
Yeah.
your kid? So you start
Yeah.
self-discovering who you are, and it's sad that is that what it really comes down to? So if your kid is good to you, then you're happy, and if your kid is not, then you have no life. You didn't, before the kid, you had a life also. So it's like an opportunity to self-discover and be happy. And then if you can be happy with yourself, then maybe there's something to come back to versus a shell of a person, but there's nothing left.
I
You know,
love
we're
that.
like that, right? We're like that as parents in general, right? There's a saying, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. We tend to live through our children. As my children were growing up, I started to see my house getting emptier. I started to panic myself, like, what's my purpose in my life? I got to find something to do here. That's what we are as mothers, especially in my generation. We stayed home with our kids, and we didn't always have those other things to make us feel a value. What is my life without my kids?
Right?
Yeah. By the way, I think that is the challenge, right? I think the opportunity for you to figure out what's good for you. What do you like to eat, right? What do you like to do? What drives you? Where are your passions? When we've given so much to our kids, it's not an or, it's an and, right? I love my child and I'm discovering who I am, right? I'm going through this challenge and I'm finding joy and gratitude in my life. I'm disconnected from my kids and I'm connected to my friends and loved ones and community. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. And I think we have to honor ourselves and to show ourselves compassion and to forgive ourselves. Like we did the absolute best that we could. If I had a crystal ball, I may have made different decisions, may have played different lottery numbers too. But meet yourself where you are and
Doesn't
honor
define
that.
you. Right.
Yeah, it does. This does
Not
not
who,
define you, and you have to stand up for yourself, meaning to feel like, you know what, this is where we're at today, and Hashem can make a choice, and things can change in an instant. We've all seen that in our own lives.
I think you have to be good also with the fact is that you're going to do your life and you're going to live it to the fullest and enjoy it and rediscover yourself. And I think that the thing that they pay you, oh, the kids will wake up one day, or the pay like that, like eventually play the long game, and that's the hope. I think you have to accept, like, who said maybe not in your lifetime. It's a hard reality to hear, but
It
it's a
is.
reality, and that's fine. When you come to the acceptance, and you have to be happy with your life, and that's work in itself. A lot of people do live through their kids. They want, as Rabbi Wawi says, you want nachas, 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 nachas. Like your whole life is nachas. Because for yourself, you want to feel good. Look at
Yeah.
and as mothers, what do? We brag about our kids all day. And it's very painful when your child is disconnected and you can't be bragging. That's what we women do when they sit around the tree at the bungalow colony. We brag about our kids.
Okay, we have a lot more live questions. Let's cover. You're on.
Hi. I wanted to give a little bit of a different perspective from the child perspective.
Yeah.
I'm a mother myself. I have 2 kids. And I grew up, my parents divorced when I was 12. And there was very little emotional support from both parents because I understand why, but that was the situation. There was very little emotional support. So my relationship to my parents was always me holding them, me holding their emotions, me making sure that all my actions don't make them upset, don't trigger them. I always stayed in line, right? So, and then when I got married and I had my own kids, there was a reason why I took a space, right? There was a reason why I stepped back. And I feel like sometimes there's a perspective of like people say it in jest a little. They say, she needs some space. She needed to heal. Yeah, the space needed to be taken to save my marriage and for my kids. Now that me and my husband are in a better place, is there a way to reinitiate contact with parents from a childish perspective, meaning me stopping to hold their emotions, me stopping to how can I reclaim that parent-child relationship? Just reverse it back to the way it's meant to be.
Yeah. Look, Sounds like you've done incredible work, so I want to really commend you. And to have an open mind to want to reconnect with your parents, I think is the model for how many should be feeling about the situation. What I'm hearing from you is this is a boundary issue, right? And you have to create a boundary, communicate a boundary, and enforce a boundary. It's your boundary. You can't expect that your mother is going to honor, not putting her stuff on you, right? Or you having to be there to support them emotionally. You have to honor that and enforce that for yourself because everybody has a different perspective. So what you think and see is different than what she thinks and sees. And so, if mom in this example, I'm just kind of making up this scenario, but if she were to say, um, put something heavy on you, you'd say like, "Mom, I'm so excited that we're speaking, or I'm happy that we're talking, but this is something that I'm not willing to get, conversate with you about." And you can hold the line. It doesn't mean push back. It just means like set up a structure that feels safe for you, and show her that I'm still open, I'm still available, but there is at this time some level of boundary that must be honored. And again, we're not pushing her away. We're welcoming her in, but we're doing it in a way that feels good for you right now, which might change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But if I can just add, it's still going back to the point of the child needing to be stronger than the parent. Like me needing to stick to my boundaries. It's still a reverse role.
That's
I
not
can hear
something.
that. I can hear that. You're not here to take on your parents' emotions, but we all need boundaries. We need them in work. We need them, in life with our husband, and again, boundaries are good. They create a vessel, right? We always think about boundaries in two parts, almost like a highway, right? What are we willing to give and what are we willing to receive? And those aren't contingent on each other, but they create this sense of safety, right? That we can then move within, giving the highway example. And there are exits, and we can move outside those boundaries when things feel good, and that's the direction we choose. And we can also pull back when it feels a little heavy. It doesn't mean complete cutoff. It just means you're not responsible for your parents. This is being responsible for you, right? Most of us are people pleasers. And we want to help and do and give and support, but we have to please ourselves. And doing that is setting proper and appropriate boundaries that are healthy. These are healthy boundaries and they make sense. So if you can, just like try to keep it focused on you and not take on your parents' stuff, but by just simply, kindly, and respectfully showing them, hey, what is something that they can communicate with you? What is information you're willing to receive? What does time and relationship look like for you? And to be open to hearing what might work for them as well. And again, co-create that relationship as a result over time.
Yeah, that makes sense. There is though an element of grief where like I think children will always want their parents to make boundaries with them, not
Uh,
children to need to make boundaries with their parents.
Again,
Yeah,
everybody
yeah, no,
should
yeah, I
have,
get it. I'm just pointing it out.
yeah.
That's it.
I
No, it's
just
a
Yeah.
want
good
to add something here. I think you're saying something very, very important. I'd just like to add one thing. Sometimes you really need to just accept who your parents are and understand you're not going to change the dynamic here of how they see you and how they're going to relate to you, right? If you can accept that, you're not going to a place that can't exist. You can only change the way you see them. You can't change them, right? You can change the way you perceive them, but they are who they are. If you can really accept that they have these limitations, you'll be able to move forward in a new kind of relationship. You're not going to go back to the way anything was or the way you wished it could be. The way you're wishing it to be and the way that it will be might not be the same, but you could still develop a meaningful connection with them once you really just accept that this is who they are.
and it's not all or nothing. It's take one step forward, reevaluate, right? Gain more information. Keep your eyes open, be aware and conscious. How does this feel for me? When it feels good, we take a step forward, the next step. And if we can align that step with our parent, great. And if it doesn't feel, then just pause. I didn't say take a step back, just pause, right? Think about what
Yeah.
do I need now? What is another boundary that would make me feel safe enough to take the next step, right? This is not all or nothing. The end point, so to speak, is having a healthy, balanced, communicative,
Yeah.
relationship. But that's the end point, right? I always think about like that's a moving target at any given time. So instead of setting that as your goal, think about this as an intention. It's a starting point, right? If you want to walk, you have to first intend to walk and then your foot moves forward. So think about like, what do I want rather than what do I want for them or what don't I want, right? Keep yourself focused and clear and keep getting information. And as you do, you can get even more clear, more specific about what this looks like and let things develop over time. We want to see you move forward, but take the next step, pause. Take the next step, pause. Not forever,
Yeah.
just enough to look inside yourself and say like, how you doing, self? Right? Like, how do you feel? How what else do you need to feel comfortable and safe? And by the way, the number one way to get potentially what you want is to ask for it, right? Mom, how open would you be? Or what do I need to show you? Or what do I need to say to show you how important it is that you honor this boundary for right now, right? And you can ask these questions of your parents as well, giving them an opportunity to speak and you to gain more information. And with that information comes power, not to use it against anybody, but to empower you, which ultimately empowers the entire relationship.
Yeah. True. Thank you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate it.
You're doing great.
I have to read the question.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have to read this. They don't want to ask live, but I just want to show the damage over here. How do we as siblings deal with a situation where one married couple alienated themselves and their many children from our parents, which is causing tremendous pain and agony to our parents, and it's causing the entire family to cut from the sibling due to action taken against their parents? It's obviously a bunch of married kids, and one of the kids is cutting off, and it's just like shaking up the whole family. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think-
It's go ahead, Hindy, please.
I think that was brought up before, a similar question of somebody who was mentioned her mother and her grandmother not speaking to each other. This is a siblings caught in the middle here, and it's very, very painful. Like we said, estrangement affects the whole family, not just the children and the parents. Number one, to really be there for both the parents and that sibling, not to take sides, not to create something bigger than it needs to be, but as siblings to truly, and I know it's very, very hard to take a step back and understand this isn't about them, and to be very careful not to take any sides, but rather to hear where their sibling is in pain, what the sibling is going through, if the sibling wants to share it with them, to start asking them questions, what they might need, right? To start to get some information from them and from the parents as well, to be there for the parents. The parents are suffering tremendously right now. To feel your parents' pain, to be there for them in the way that they need, to hear their pain. But once again, to know your place where it is. Like Tuvia said, you could ask the questions, you could validate, you could hear them.
Okay.
But
Let's go to
what
the
do you
next.
say?
Okay. Let's go to the next live question. Hi.
Hi, so thank you for taking my question. Normally when I ask a question in this venue, I get incredible help and guidance. So hopefully today will be the same. So I have 4 children. I'm divorced 15 years. History of the marriage was an abusive marriage, in the real terms of abuse, not like now, oh, you didn't get your iPad today. It was, and I have 2 boys and then 2 girls, and my boys took a lot of the physical abuse from their dad, or if I intervened, I would take it to protect my boys. Then I have the 2 girls, and it's come to light in the last few years that my youngest, if he took her out, if she misbehaved, he would squeeze her hand so the knuckles would be white. So there was significant abuse, And then since the divorce, he was supposed to see the children 2 times a week and on a Sunday, and he did not prioritize them and fulfill his visitation. When the kids were young, would invite him for dinner so that he would see the children, and having them with me there, they felt safe rather than going with him alone. He never had them for a sleepover. He's never taken them on vacation, nothing like that. When the two went to college, the older ones, he actually wrote letters to the college saying, do not contact me for anything. My two boys are married. At each of the simchas, he made some palaver, had a fight with the one son because his top button in the yichud, like when they were coming in to do the ketubah signing, my son didn't have his top button done in the Florida heat. There was an altercation. So it's a history of significant issues. It's been a year that he stopped talking to 3 of the 4 children. He only speaks to my one daughter, who he maybe talks to her once a week. Doesn't see her much. He sent letters to them, you're no longer my son. You need to return everything I ever gave you.
Hello?
Then no contact. And over the years, he never spoke to his mother for 20 years. My children never met their grandmother on that side. They don't know their cousins. They don't know their aunts, nothing. He never spoke with them during our marriage. So that's a pattern of his behavior that is consistent. So it's been a year. He hasn't seen my grandson, who just turned 1, since his bris. And it was all because my son made a joke that he found inappropriate. And I told him at the time, choose the relationship, not the joke. Like, they're big. You can't tell them what to find funny. So now he's texting them, I sacrificed for you, you owe me. The pitch of the texts have changed. It's including now baby photos. It's very manipulative. It's Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. It's very weird. I've been told to back out. I always used to make shalom when their father withdrew for 6 months. I would say, it's your father. He's always going to be your father. Just talk to him. Like, understand he's not so well. But they've now all had therapy and have decided they cannot keep this roller coaster of abuse. But yet, I think they still long for a normal father, but they're not going to get one. He's just not well enough to be a normal father, because it may be another joke. It may be a top button. It may be that they used the wrong fork, or they used to not use a ruler. He used to hit them because they didn't use a ruler in their math homework. So we never know what the trigger will be. I just don't know. I also feel sorry for my ex-husband.
Let's get to the point of the question. I'm sorry, but it's
do I intervene to make shalom, or do I just keep backing out that I've been advised, or do I say you have that mitzvah of honoring an abusive father? I'm so conflicted. Like, do you have to, as a child, show your father respect even though he's been so abusive?
Look, there's no right or wrong here. You have to determine what it is that you want. But rather than trying to tell, again, we've kind of brought this theme up before, rather than telling them what you think they should do, try to understand them. What do they need?
I understand. I'm just, for myself, do I say you have a mitzvah of honoring your father, or do I understand that they no longer want to do that mitzvah? I'm conflicted in which is the right way.
I think they know that they have this mitzvah. I don't think that you need to remind them of that. That's on them. And I think that they're aware of it. And you can have conversations with them about it and ask them what might they be comfortable to find a way to connect with their father in a way that they feel safe, like what Tuvia said, with safe boundaries, to create some balance, right? Not to be so triggered by them. They are adults now, so the amount of abuse he can have on them is very limited. They might be triggered by the past of what he's done to them in the past, but they're grown-ups now. They're not living in his home. To have those open conversations with them, what might you need, right? For you to be able to have that, to observe that mitzvah in a way that you can do it. it's a parent's job also to help a child to be mechabed their parents in the right way. The Torah gives us guidelines on that too. We're not supposed to teach our children to be mechabed parents so that we can feel the kavod, but we're there to teach them so that they can grow and they can serve Hashem properly and do this mitzvah the right way for them. So as a parent, you can ask them, if they're open to finding that way. But I do think that they know about the mitzvah, and I'm sure it's in the back of their mind or somewhere in their mind, but they're in a lot of pain. And it's probably more because they're being triggered by the way they grew up than really any damage that he's able to do on them right now. Right? I'm hearing that you're in contact with him, and
No, not
not at
anymore.
all. Not
No.
anymore.
It's
I'm done. I can't.
Done.
It's not healthy for me to make shalom all the time or
Right.
facilitate come for dinner,
Oh, yeah.
come for yontif, come for this, just because sometimes it can be a little rough. Would a mediator help? Like,
No.
no. Okay.
I don't think a mediator would help here. But for your children to be able to find a way to learn some tools to set those boundaries, to communicate them and to enforce them with their father would really be the appropriate thing to do here. I don't think they need mediation. They don't need to explain to their father, what they need him to do. And we don't need their father to explain to them where he's coming from. To just directly find a place that they can have a connection with them in a way that they feel safe.
So do they have to be New York based to be able to get services through your organization, or they can, like one's in Virginia, one's in Florida?
Let's go to the next question, okay? Thank you.
Okay.
Hi. You're on mute. Phone. *6.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you for taking my call. I feel that one of the biggest problems that's spreading this is that rabbis are giving permission to adult children to cut off their parents without ever talking to the parents. They just listen to the children's stories, which could be lies or exaggerations, and they say, okay, the Torah permits you to cut off your parents. And I'm shocked because from what I learned about the laws of Lashon Hara, you're not allowed to believe bad reports, just hearing one side. And yet, this is very common. These rabbis, they said, yeah, my therapist, who also never heard the parent side, says, yes, it's not good for my mental health. And they said, okay, you're allowed. And this is the main problem in the Jewish community. If these rabbis would say, no, you're not allowed, we first have to go to a marriage counselor, a parent-child counselor, and see if this relationship could be saved. I can't give you permission until you went to some type of peacemaking counseling.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
Hindy, we've been waiting for this question. It's late.
Yeah,
Came in late.
it is late. I'm also happy to hear it. What you're saying is something that we hear all the time. And of course, we're not here to speak for the Rabbanim. And you're right. You are right. Right? There should be both sides of the equation should be heard. But rabbis tend to answer questions that they were asked, right? So should I or can I sometimes result in a different answer? And I think that, the children are coming with a strong argument. And again, they're trying to validate the child and to support them where they are. I think that's why this podcast is so unbelievably important and why this conversation really matters. I think that we need to work together to not shun the rabbis for what they're doing, but to empower them, to teach them, to help them to understand that there's a bigger sugya here, right? That we have to create some level of awareness and education. There are organizations like ours and Broken Ties and others who are looking for a centralized sort of Das Torah, like, hey, when this comes up, this is how we'll respond, or these are the Rabbanim that you should go to. But this takes time and it takes effort from all of us. But it's not about blaming the Rabbanim. I think that their intentions are good. I'd like to think, I hope they are. And their guidance is giving the child what they need at the time. So we got to find a way to work together to create awareness of what's actually going on, that alienation and estrangement And this family dynamic of distancing and silencing is bigger than just, hey, what's going on for this family right now? And
I feel it's important for organizations like yourself to reach to like the top rabbis who would give an order to the smaller rabbis of the shul. You are forbidden to give permission to cut off until the child has taken these steps. It's like you wouldn't let a congregant get divorced if they said, my wife's driving me crazy, my therapist agrees, individual, not marriage, that it's not good for me. They wouldn't say, okay, you have my permission, get divorced. They would say, no, you must go to marriage counseling. Let me hear both sides. Maybe I can make peace. He would just say, okay, go ahead. Why this should be treated the same like divorcing your wife. You cannot just do it because one person, I heard one spouse's complaints and say, yeah, go get divorced. No one no rabbi would give permission like that. A big rabbi has to say it's forbidden. Make guidelines.
I think that you're bringing up a very good point, but we're living in a time that we don't have one big rabbi that everybody listens to. In the days of Rav Moshe Zatzal,
get a few big rabbis.
Again, I hear your point, and you bring up a very valid point, but we're living at a time that it's not really very realistic to expect one rabbi or a couple rabbis to make an order and expect all rabbis to follow that, number one.
But also, I love it just, she's saying one thing and I understand her pain, but also there are times that we have to live in reality where it would be the right thing for a child not to talk to their parent because they're not in a good place and it's just too much for them. So a rabbi could say,
but there has to be an investigation first.
One second. You're saying, I'm hearing you say that the rabbi's listening to one side and telling a child to cut off, but we're also listening to one side sometimes, that we're hearing that a child says that my rabbi said to cut off. As Tuvia said, a rabbi can say can, and they take it as should. Sometimes when we go to the Rav and we speak to him directly, we're not exactly hearing what that child said. So we can't always assume that what somebody said or rabbi said is what a rabbi actually said.
Or meant by what they said.
Right. And number two is that sometimes like she said here, a rabbi could say, give yourself a little space. And we always say, give yourself a little space to get yourself ready. That doesn't mean a permanent break, but to a child, a space might be 10 years and to a Rav, it might mean 2 weeks. So we don't always know what the Rav is saying. So I don't think we should always assume that there's that group of rabbis. We don't know. There may be others that are being misinterpreted. And I think to really be fair to Rabbanim, to be also done l'kavschus, that I don't think there's a group of rabbis that are encouraging estrangement and alienation, although it might seem that way to us.
Unfortunately, I think there are. Like they say, my therapist advised me it's not good for my health, and it's like the doctor said, so listen to the doctor. Now that therapist also never spoke to the parents or tried to mediate. So it's based off the rabbis relying on the therapist and on what their congregant is telling them. But to me, the Torah says, like the way you say the marriage, you don't just say, okay, it's causing you a heartache, just get divorced. They always know you must work and try and turn over every stone before you say, okay, get divorced. It has to be the same
also you're coming
level.
from that generation where that's the method. Today's generation is, if it's hard, just get divorced. It's not so complicated.
No. By the way, we agree with you. You're right.
But if you would ask a rabbi, they wouldn't say get divorced. They'd say you must go to marriage counseling first.
And then they still get divorced.
Not every rabbi says that today. Not every rabbi says that today. I've seen many rabbis who say, okay, you're newlyweds, you don't have kids, you're not happy, get divorced.
Okay, let's say there are children. You wouldn't
we don't know.
Okay, I gotta go to the next call, but thank you so much. Okay, we got the rabbi bashing for the night. Everybody feels good. Okay, let's go. Last live call for tonight. You're on. The last special question.
Thank you for taking my question.
Sure.
I have a few. I guess I'll just say them all and you could answer them afterwards if you could. I'm coming from the child's perspective. Do the parents that ever come to you get told that they should go for their help, like should go work on themselves, not just go find an outlet, how to deal with all the pain while your child is away, but like maybe take a look in the mirror and see what you did wrong. Also, how could a parent, like a parent asked before, like, I don't even know what went wrong, like, why are they not talking to me? How's that possible? Like, all this time that your child is not with you, like, you're not even looking inside and trying to see what went wrong. And then you were talking about abuse of like not getting your allowance for the week, but there's real abuse in the world, and parents are actually perpetrating the abuse, like way too many. And why are we like, why are we not understanding that children need to disconnect from their abusers and can't sit at the same Shabbos table at parents that did terrible, things against their children? And not only that, but children are not cutting off from their parents all the time. There are a lot of parents that are cutting off from their children, saying, you're accusing me of this and that, you're lying, I don't want to talk to you, you can't come to my Shabbos meal, even though the child is trying so hard to work past all the hardships that they went through. The parent doesn't want to own up to it. So instead of dealing with it, they'll just like send them out of the house.
Wow. Yeah. It's almost surprising to hear how many parents in tonight's discussion are cutting off from their kids. And again, we know that most adult children long for the relationship. Abuse is tough because we want to make sure that, physical abuse is addressed appropriately, and that's not really sort of within our realm of work. And the parents are definitely need to do the work for themselves. The question is, how do we get them to see that everybody needs to work on themselves? It's, the design of Hashem that gives us the parents that we have and the children that we have, so that both sides can benefit from the challenge. And you're right, getting a parent to sort of wake up and to realize that like unconditional love is just that. There is no conditions on it is a difficult thing to do, especially if they're closed off or closed to it. My question back to you would be is, have you ever suggested moving forward, and in order to do so, what would feel good for you is to make sure that we are both in an open and ready position to do so with some level of support or help?
Yeah, so very often, I mean, I hear this from a lot of my friends. Very often, we're all in therapy, we're all doing our hard work, we're all trying to move past all the pain and all the hurt. But when we reach out to our parents and let them know about the hurt, they dismiss it. They're not interested in changing. They're narcissistic or have BPD or actually did very terrible things against us, and are not interested in facing the mirror.
Maybe they're
Yeah,
not
not
ready.
yet. Yeah, go ahead, Hindy. I know what you're going to say, but you take it away.
I said, maybe your parents are not ready to hear it yet. Maybe it's very heavy for them right now. Maybe
Exactly.
really what you could first do is just try to reach them and, show some compassion, because clearly they have a lot of limitations here. And it sounds like they were very, very abusive to you. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's very painful. But I think to start slow with small steps. And I think there will be a time to address the pain that your parents put you through. But it's not yet, because they're not ready to hear it yet. To reach them in their reality right now, to start with small steps, right? To just show up and to really strengthen yourself to be able to do so. But understanding you're not changing your parents, as we said before. They are who they are, and they have their limitations, and they might never really even understand it. It's possible that they won't. But
Since when? Why do we have to be the adults in the picture?
Because
don't
you
have
want
to
the
be the adult.
relationship. If that's the case, right? It's not about who's the adult and who's the parent. It's about empowering yourself, right? And reaching out in a way that feels good for you. And like Hindi said, like reaching out with an understanding and compassion that your parents have blind spots or limitations. They didn't go to therapy like you went to therapy. They didn't do the self work. They, again, probably did the best that they could. Again, we're not excusing any abusive behavior whatsoever. That's a non-starter. but to put yourself in a position to feel good about doing this for you, not for them. You're not doing anything more than testing to see how well you're doing in therapy and how much you've grown, and to be able to sit with what they say a little bit differently this time, and to show progress, and to put yourself in the best position for connection, and to go at your pace that feels really good for you.
I'm a little confused. It doesn't sit right with me that someone that's an abuser should be given compassion and should be given that, I understand, like, for me to be part of the family, like, that's important. So I'll show up, but I don't need to have conversations with any of them because they don't they don't deserve my energy. They don't deserve, like, me working hard if they can't do any of the work themselves.
Right. The question is, right, how can you get them to understand how important it is, and for them to look inside themselves and to do it in a non-accusatory way, but in an empowering way. This is hard. This is a hard scenario because of what you've experienced. And if where you're holding right now is, creating a little bit more space for myself feels okay. But it sounds like you are also longing for some connection. The question is, what does that connection look like, and what's the safest way for you to achieve it?
Correct, because every child needs to have parents, but maybe these
100%.
these are
And
not the
that's the
parents.
why. That's really the why, because
That is the why. You're
I want
right.
to share with you something. Recently, I had somebody over. They came for Yontif, and I've always known this person to be difficult, rough, has that reputation. People feel like they're always walking on eggshells with her, scared to have a relationship with her. She was in my home, and she started to share with me and my daughter the rough childhood she experienced as leaving Europe during the war, and how she felt abandoned and thrown from place to place to place to place, and felt that it was a miracle that she is where she is today. And I looked at this person with a whole new lens, a whole new mirror, because I knew this person to be very, very difficult, abusive, you could say, very hard on people. And I, for the first time, was able to see her with a whole new lens, really from compassion, what she went through. She wasn't given the tools that many of us were to be better parents. She didn't have them. She wasn't, her basket wasn't filled at birth with all the things that she needs to give over to the next generation. She wasn't able to. And she really did do the best that she could. And I'm not going to tell you that people didn't suffer and grow up in a very difficult way from her, but was able to see her really in a whole new way.
Correct. I believe that my parents really suffered when they grew up, but I also did, and I went to therapy
Yes.
and they didn't.
But they don't have those tools, right? They
There's
don't even know
therapy
them.
available for them. Why don't
Yeah, but again, not knowing that they need to do that, right? Have you offered that, that this is what you would like to see them do so that you both are empowered in the same way?
I would never mention anything like that to them. I wouldn't broach the
Because,
subject.
right, is it fair to say that you feel like, why am I being the parent and why am I guiding them towards their own growth when they should see it themselves?
I think they should see it themselves, and I don't
But they're
think that
not. I guess that's right.
they're not gonna
They're not.
appreciate my input.
Maybe. Maybe I don't. Again, I think it shouldn't be in a form of me being the parent telling the parent what to do, but me empowering the parent through a set of curiosity based questions that find out where they're holding today, and maybe you can help them to see certain areas that will help themselves to get the help that they need. They're not seeing it, as Hindy said, and for that you can feel a level of compassion. It's sad for
They
them
don't even know.
that they can't see it. What did you say, Hindi?
I said they don't even know that they're missing
They
it.
don't. That's the whole point of a blind spot, right? And again, I hear you. You are not the parent here, but you also are a person who's done the work on yourself and is empowered, and you can use those skills to help facilitate a conversation that opens up the dialogue that maybe will get them to see it. You can't control them, clearly, and that you're right, they have to see it for themselves to want to make a significant change. But but it's not all or nothing.
That would be in an ideal world if I could have a conversation with them.
What's holding you back from doing so?
Oh, if I would even mention the word therapy or say that I'm going for therapy to better myself, they would laugh at me in the face and say that
Okay.
I'm crazy.
So that's a starting point. But as Hindy mentioned earlier, sometimes the first step of connection is not laying on therapy. And this is what I've done for myself. It's too much. So if you can work on just strengthening the connection between the two of you in a way that feels good, then when the time is right, you have a little bit more clout, right? You have a little bit more to stand on because there's a stronger connection. Right now, it sounds like the humor that they might find in what you're saying is a defense mechanism. They don't understand it. They don't have enough information for what that actually means for you. And that's the level of deficiency as well. Again, part of the machlokes here is that parents and children are speaking different languages. Rav Ishi said this earlier that we're coming from two different generations in two different places. So we're not asking compassion, for you to have compassion, which equals giving your parents an excuse, but they clearly don't see it for themselves. And you are in a better spot. You're a strong woman, it sounds like. You know a lot about who you are and what's best for people out in the world. But rather than telling, show them that this is what therapy has enabled you to do and how you've grown from it. And if they laugh, let them and try to be okay with your reaction and response as it relates to that. You can use that to gauge your level of growth as well. It's a starting point. It's not an end point. If you cannot allow yourself to be shut down by that and just use that as like, okay, they are, it's like a child who laughs when he, is embarrassed or doesn't feel like he has enough knowledge.
But there
Use
is
that
also the
starting point.
possibility that they might never change, to understand that you can do this, but you still don't have a guarantee that they will. And if you can really reach a place of accepting that, this is who they are. I tried, I let them know, but they might take it and they might not. You don't have that power of what they're going to decide to do, right? You could just be able to share that and tell that, but to be able to ask yourself, am I strong enough? Do I have the strength to have somewhat of a relationship with them with strong boundaries, whether they change or not? Is really what you're going to have to ask
Most
yourself.
of us that have gone through abuse are not strong enough to fight the
Right.
abuse. Just because we're being triggered, as much as we're becoming empowered through therapy, it's really, really hard to be able to go back into the lion's den and be able to put up those boundaries and not care when they ridicule you, when you just say a random thing. Like, the abuse is not leaving, they're not changing, we're the ones that are changing. So as much as we could try to change, we could still have a limited kind of relationship, but that's not the relationship that I'm still yearning for. I'm not cut off from my parents, but I do talk to them, but very, very, very limited, and everything is super superficial because I can't go more. But I really yearn to be able to have parents that would just be able to hear me out and be there for me. But I guess I have to grieve that part because I'm not going to be able to get that.
Or at least have some level of acceptance that this is the way it is right now. And being able to set your boundaries and honor them for yourself and to know I might take a step forward and if I get a little nibble from the lion, then I'm going to take a step back and not shut them out forever, but just to honor myself where I'm holding at any given time. I think that's the level of empowerment we're asking you to embrace.
Right. Also, I'm hearing that they're still really triggering you, and that's very, very hard. And it sounds like you're not in a place yet to move further. But at some point, we're always going to feel those triggers, right? We can't stop the triggers from coming in, but at some point, to be able to take a step back, right, and to give yourself some time not to react to those triggers in the way that you have in the past. If you could reach that point of not letting those triggers take over you, but you taking over the triggers.
Yeah.
Correct. So if I could ask you both for a favor, when a parent comes and cries that their children are estranged from them, Like, just give them that, like, check in the mirror, like, just see your relationship with them. Like, what did you do? What did you do wrong? Like, children don't just run away from parents because we all need them. We all need our parents.
Yeah,
But
I
Yeah,
agree.
to that I would say you're right. And beautifully, there are many parents that are looking at themselves in the mirror, and there are many parents that are working very, very hard. And we feel sad and sorry that your parents aren't in that space yet. But many people are learning what true boundaries are and learning to set them for themselves and learning to see their child's perspective and to uncover their blind spots and to really grow. We see this day in and day out. It's the crux of our work, and so we'll certainly take what you said to heart, but believe it to be that there a lot of people are doing a lot of great work, and I think what we've seen on tonight's call is that it takes work on both sides. Right. This is not about being accusatory or blaming, but learning to understand and to shift perspective. And a person needs to want to do that on both sides for a relationship to be co-created in a healthy way.
thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to go to the closing segment. Here we go. So again, first of all, big thank you to Tuvia, Blau, and Hindy, Herman for coming on tonight and giving a lot of chizik and talking about it. Just the point of tonight is really just bringing out the topic, understanding the different points of view. Obviously, everybody has a story, and obviously, everybody has their own complication, and there's no one magic answer for everybody. Just talking about it and putting on the table is a tremendous chizik for everybody involved. Again, for anybody who's here the first time every Sunday night at 9 p.m. on the Zoom ID, we have different topics, our bottom, different therapists, different people. I'm sure next week, November 9th, we're going to have a Lakewood famous therapist from Leffler, and the topic will be confirmed. We'll send out an email, and it should be powerful, deep, and meaningful, as all of our programs are. Everything is recorded. Menachem will be on menachemberfel.com. If anybody has any questions, please email coachmenachem@gmail.com. Tonight's share is 248. And if you want to listen to it on the phone, it's 732-305-9011, 732-305-9011. And of course, it's on all the platforms, on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and all the other ones. Tuvia and Hindi, is there one email address or one website if anybody wants to get a hold of you, or is it separate? If somebody wants to get a hold of you, Tuvia or Hindi, what's the
Yeah,
easiest path?
the best path and the most easiest path is just to go to our website. Hindi and I have joined forces, and we're working hard to bridge the gap on both sides. The website is VheishivLev.com,
Spell
and
that
there
out.
it's VheishivLev, VheishivLev.com, or you could Google it and you'll find both of our information there. And we're working as quickly as possible to help give guidance and chizik where we can and to support both
Tuvia,
sides.
can you just text it in the chat for everybody to see?
Yep.
And again, thank you to all the advertising sponsors, Lakewood Scoop here in Lakewood, Ellie and Hour, Five Town Central, and Chayla Kaufman for JCN. We're going to go to the closing segment. We'll speak for a few minutes, Menachem, then Hindi, and then Tuvia, and we'll wrap it up. It's been a long night, a lot of questions, very interactive as we suggested. Just want to say from listening to tonight and just knowing the stories and the things that we see, it's obviously a lot of pain from all sides. Obviously, everybody wants to be close and everybody loves each other. There's a lot of different angles, and I hope the people that listen to this tonight, whether it's the parents, the children, whoever's involved, just understand ultimately we all have pain from this. There's no person that says I'm disconnected and I'm happy. It's all a deep pain, whether it's the child or the parent. And sometimes the child or the parent needs to do it for themselves, for their own health or for their own space. It's sad when sometimes divorces, skewer sometimes the kids and they're like pulled into it, but eventually all kids become adults. I've seen so many times how just so much pain and just so much suffering, and the stories I know, it's hard to fathom them and the pain. But ultimately, I think what Tuvia is mentioning in Hindi, the real short point of everything tonight is ultimately nobody really means bad, and obviously, for the abusive parents that did abuse, again, to whatever your level of abuse is they didn't mean to, and they did the best they could, and obviously they try and they try their best, and same thing for the kids, like. Every parent loves the kid to death. I think almost every parent here would take a bullet for any of their kids, right? We know that. And for the kids, every kid wants a father. Somebody texted me before, just every person who has a father or parent in jail, every not-Jewish kid, they just yearn to have a relationship with their parent. You know what I mean? It's a natural thing that Hashem put into our neshama, into our guf. So listen to tonight. Everybody take one step forward of reaching out. It doesn't have to mean you're all in. It doesn't mean that they have to go to therapy and fix everything. It doesn't mean they have to come for the whole 3-day yontif. It doesn't mean that you're best friends. It means to open the dialogue and to put a lending hand. And it could be slowly, it could be over a period of time, to show that you're there, show that you love, and show that you care. And hopefully everybody will heal together, and that will help. And it will help much more deeper than you and your kid or the parent. It's going to help the future generations and the whole family that's involved, right? There's going to be more generations and more generations, and we want to give them the strength to see a beautiful, loving connection, loving family. So please listen to this, whether it's now 2025 or 2035 or 2045, and really take it to heart. And do the first step. Do this week. Reach out, send a text. Say, I'm thinking about you. Something light. Doesn't have to be, when can we go to therapy? When you coming for Shabbos? It can be just more, I'm thinking about you. I love you. You're the best. Whatever it is. Something nice. What's for dinner? So the Dodgers won the World Series. Something basic. And everybody should have a great week. And let's take it over to Coach Menachem.
Yeah, thank you very much. Tonight was heavy, not easy, a lot of pain, and everybody is in a different situation. That's also very important. Many can't even hear what we discussed tonight, and it might sound like it's just impossible in their situation. And many times people feel they're not understood, and they don't see how they can apply it. But again, everybody is in their situation, and they might need what they need, and it might be hard to listen to it tonight, maybe a different time. But thank you, Tuvia and Hindy. Just the clarity, understanding the goal. Again, the goal for two people to have communication, not to change. Obviously, you don't see the same thing, and that's why this happened. And the communication is not easy if you want them to do what you want. You want them to change, and you don't see them changing. And especially if it's kids expecting their parents to be the adult, why should they be the adult? That could be very painful. So I just want to end with a tefillah. Hashem should listen to all of our tefillahs, whether it's the parents, the kids, that we should understand ourselves so we can understand the other. And ultimately, we should come closer to Hashem with the Geula. Shkoyach.
Amen.
Okay, Mrs. Herman, wrap
Thank
it
you. Thank you, Coach Menachem. Beautiful words. Coach Menachem, you brought something up that I would like to share. Hashem did put us here for a reason, and we don't always understand why. Like we said, why? I'm going to share with you a little story that I heard from Rav Pesach Krohn a few years ago, and he was speaking for Broken Ties. He spoke about a boy in Cheder, and they were learning Parshas, I think it's VheishivLev, about when the story of Mechiras Yosef. And a boy asked the Rebbe, I don't understand something. Why were the brothers angry at Yosef? What did he do? It was Yaakov who favored him and who made him a Ksonas Pasim. Shouldn't they have been angry at Yaakov? And the Rebbe thought, wow, this is a brilliant question. And he looked for a source to answer this boy, and he couldn't find one. And this question went all the way to Rav Chaim. And Rav Chaim answered so beautifully. He said, you will never find a source for this answer, because nowhere in any previous generation would any child have asked such a question of a Rebbe. And that tells us we are exactly where we're supposed to be right now. This is a generation that is being tested with something that has never been before to such great numbers. And I don't know why, but this is something that Hashem is putting us through right now. And we need to say Lama. We need to rise to the occasion. And that involves parents and children, both understanding each other differently. The name VheishivLev Avos Obanim, right, reminds us that everybody here has a role to play. Before the days of Mashiach, this is going to happen to us. There is going to be a time when children and parents are disconnected. But in the same way, Hashem is going to bring us together. But with the help of the parents They have a role to play to understand the needs of their children, to be able to hear them in a way that they need, to make them feel safe and understood, and to show them the love that they need. And for the children to be able to observe this mitzvah of kibbud of the aim full-heartedly in a way that makes them feel safe with the help of the parents, giving them the tools to be able to do so. And then that's chus, right? We shouldn't be asking this question anymore, and we should all be able to bring Mashiach, the Meher B'Yameinu, right?
Amen.
Because this is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu really does want from us right now.
Oh man, thank you.
Wow.
Okay, Tuvia, it's been 2.5 hours. A lot of pain.
Great.
Wrap it
Yeah.
up. Let's go.
Okay.
Something takeaway material.
Amazing. I want to really mimic what Hindy said. You know, we're working hard to try to understand both sides of the coin. Look, the best thing that you can do is choose how you see the situation and choose how you react or respond to the situation. Make a decision when you are ready to move forward to take the next step, and not all of the steps, right? You don't have to swallow the whole thing at once. Call that swallowing the ocean. Just take the next step and then reevaluate how you feel, and to trust yourself. What your body is telling you is really whether or not you're in alignment with where your mind wants to be. Focus on you. What do I want? What do I need right now? What can I do to feel safe and put myself in the best position for success? And on the other side, to see, like, how can I see what they're seeing? What questions do I need to ask to better understand where they're coming from? And rather than reacting, try to learn from their perspective, and to see that it's both people are seeing what they're seeing, and both people are right to see what they see. This is not about proving one side wrong and one side right. This is about empowering yourself to feel good about who you are, to find the balance, and to create peace and shalom within our families and within our own hearts. When you create peace with somebody else, you feel peaceful. And I think at the end of the day, working with, hundreds of people, people really want peace and happiness. And in order to get that, sometimes you have to let go of your own ego, your own ideals, your own narrow perspective, and to open up your arms and your heart and your mind to the limitations of others, or to the fact that people are seeing things differently. And so we're grateful to have this opportunity. Know that the work is just beginning here, that we're working hard to empower everybody here, and to give them an understanding that this family dynamic is not good. And we're going to work hard as best as we can with Hashem's help to help drive families closer together rather than further apart.
Right?
Amen. Thank you very much, Mrs. Herman. Tuvia.
Okay.
Everybody should have a wonderful week. Let's have this week a week of a little healing. Everybody should just reach out a little bit, one step at a time. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next week.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having us.